lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Matt Williams got a brilliant start from the third row of the grid.
He's gone, he's hit him, he's straight off at the chase.
And a half-second lead. Oh, but it's just returned in the background.
He has it. Oh, he's round on the last lap.
There's a massive, massive accident.
Next to the inside, what a move, what a move.
A very good evening to you all who are tuning in from wherever you happen to be around the world. This is Automobilista Australia, and this is round number 6 of the GT3 World Series in 2020. And for the very first time, this event takes place at a circuit that none of the Automobilista Australia series have ever been to. And not only that, it's a circuit you'd more be familiar with motorcycle racing than motor car racing. That's right, this place might be called Valencia, but it's not the Valencia you're thinking of. This is the circuit that hosts the MotoGP finale each and every year. Circuit Valenciana Ricardo Tormo in Spain. And for some weird reason, we've decided to let a GT3 field loose here for 90 minutes tonight, so in about 2 hours from now, we'll have ourselves a winner. Very nice to have you on board. My name's Steve DeVries, and it's pleasure to welcome the ever-present commentary team. So we'll go first of all with Michael the Flatman Zalavari, and hopefully, if he's back in time, Josh Bagsy Bags. Good evening, gents.
Good evening, Nether. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, really excited to see what this track brings for us tonight. We've had a few novel races so far this season, and this one is sure to be another one. And do we have Bagsy? Is that the question?
I think he might still be getting himself organised with a couple of things. He has been having a few technical dramas getting himself going tonight, so hopefully he won't be too far away from joining us in the box. Bit of a later start than usual, which actually gave him a little bit more time to sort out some of the technical gremlins that he was having before getting into the session tonight. So hopefully that's not too much of a problem for him. But for the short term, we have just got myself and yourself, Michael, and we'll probably have a little bit of a look at the point standings coming into tonight. So let's bring that up for everybody at home, and that's the point standings for the Drivers' Championship as they are right now. So after 5 rounds, well, if you're a Lamborghini, you're up the pointy end of the field, aren't you?
Yeah, just look at that top 3. Bolger and Devonish both in the Lamborghinis at the head of the field. Foley splitting the pair in his Dodge Viper, 1 point ahead of Devonish. But it's really been the Lamborghini that's been the car to have so far this season. Bolger taking another victory at Donington last event, being the first 2-time winner for the series so far. And Ozrob is the head of the Silver Cup field, also in a Lamborghini with 28 points. So the top group is actually starting to stretch away quite a fair bit from the rest of the field. And with Lewis Wedding missing out tonight as well, we could see a battle in 3 for the rest of the championship.
Yeah, Lewis Wedding very graciously stepping down from GT3 duties at the moment to be effectively a live steward for the rest of the season. We've had some trouble with the safety car and a few issues. The last of the issues coming at the last round at Donington, where a number of people were told to do things that they weren't supposed or wouldn't had to be doing, and actual fact lost a few laps in the process. So he's very graciously put together a new protocol for tonight, and he'll be administering that for the rest of the year. So big thanks to Lewis. He didn't have to do it, but he's elected to do it, and we say thank you very much for volunteering and putting your that first as ahead of the racing commitments. Teams points though, completely different story. And as we say, if you're Lamborghini, you want to be in. That's the car to be in, because the top 2 teams are head and shoulders above the rest at the moment, Michael.
Yeah, Gravel Shed Racing, Wedding Crashers Racing has been the tussle for the season so far. Gravel Shed taking a bit more of a lead now after Bolger and Ozrob particularly have really been stretching out their respective leads. So that's the team to beat at the moment. Wedding Crashers in second, BC Racing in third, very much on the back of Foley, and then Team Antara Loose Simsport. So Wedding and Mike Coulston. While Wedding isn't racing GT3 anymore, he has drafted in a replacement, and that is Peter Savage. So we'll still be seeing points for Team Antara Loose Simsport. So potentially might see them make a challenge for the top three. But yeah, as you said earlier, Lamborghini's really taken the ascendancy in the teams championship as well.
Yeah, they've certainly been the car that seems to be the best weapon underneath anybody right now. Well, we've got him in the box now. He's got himself sorted. All the technical gremlins are out the way. So we might throw this one to you, actually, Bagsy. First of all, a good evening. And secondly, this track. This is a unique circuit, if ever there was one.
Hi, Nether. Hi, Michael. How you guys going? It is a interesting track. And last round, we pointed out how it was a little bit like Eastern Creek almost, especially the first sector. And usually a MotoGP track. So the way the track is styled is a little bit different to what your average car racing track might be like. There's a lot more of these long flowing corners, a lot less of these sharp sort of corners you'll see on lots of other tracks. Even the hairpin here it's quite wide, and it widens out into a not quite 180 degree turn. This makes everything a little bit easier, makes it all about getting that power down, because once you've got the power down, you're not likely to be letting it off until the very next corner. And also some interesting challenges. For example, the last two corners, you've got this long, fast, sweeping left-hander, and then your tricky braking zone where you've got a little bit of a straight line, but it makes it very easy for people to pick different lines into the corner, try cut under you or cut around you. It's going to be interesting to see whose cars will be most advantaged by this. We've seen Will Devenish every week, always good with his car's traction and power down, so expect him to be right at the front today.
Yeah, precisely. We did mention back on the previous round's broadcast that this place does look a little bit like Eastern Creek, and in just a few moments we'll put up a little graphic overlay over the top just to show you how it does look a bit like Eastern Creek. As a few people actually had said that parts of this circuit actually remind them of the Estoril circuit at Portugal is another circuit that comes to mind. So if we overlay Eastern Creek on top, it's going to be in yellow. So if you see it there, that's Eastern Creek in yellow, and then the circuit tonight behind there. So you can see there is a little bit of a resemblance there, isn't there, Michael?
Yeah, there's bits and pieces, and I think a lot of what people are seeing in the similarities really is that turn 1, 2, 3 complex, very much reminiscent, and also the compound corners, which is something I wanted to touch on, much like Eastern Creek, where you've got a lot of flowing sections that really you're turning and positioning the car for a corner, 2 or 3 corners down the road. Much the same here with Valencia. You've got the sections like over the top of the hill at turns 7 and 8, where you're turning the car and then braking, and then again in the infield there, 9, 10, 11, up to 5th gear, turning the car, braking. So there's a lot of really difficult sections where you've got to be thinking a few corners ahead, and I think that's why a lot of people are reminded by Eastern Creek, because it's a similar sort of thing. The compound corners of the last section where you've got to turn the car, brake the car, and then turn back the other way into the hairpin, those sort of things. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting way to see the different lines tonight and how people manage all of these different factors. And we could see quite a few mistakes tonight just due to the difficulty of the circuit.
And we have been seeing plenty of those mistakes in the practice session just leading up to qualifying, which is about to get underway. And as we say, for all the new tracks that are on the calendar this year, the most important statistic is the one at the very bottom. There ain't no track records that anybody has set here before. So it's an opportunity for a lot of drivers to stake themselves a little bit of a claim of, or a slice of history as part of tonight's proceedings. We'll go over to tonight's proceedings now because they are formally about to get underway. Qualifying is about to commence. Have a look at these two Benzes that are at the top here. So Ziris and Pete Savage, who's taken over the Lewis Wedding car, they were the top 2 drivers in practice. Ziris actually just pipped Peter's time at the death knell on practice. So it was a 1 minute 30.632 to a 1 minute 30.685. Geez, Mercedes, you wouldn't be saying, we wouldn't have thought that they'd be this quick out of the box at a circuit like this, just looking at the layout on paper, gents.
Perhaps not, but then there's every chance that some of our front Lamborghini runners, those of Devenish, Bolger and Osrob, and even Matt Schwartz, have often, done much like the Mercedes F1 team and dumped a few sandbags out between practice and qualifying. A lot of people seem to like doing their laps in practice on high fuel runs gives a bit of a better idea of how the car's going to be balanced throughout the majority of the race, because you are going to be running it most of the time at large amounts of fuel. So we see Sirius destroy some cones that apparently displeased him. So expect to see those times really close up. And there's never a guarantee of practice pace translating into qualifying pace, as we've seen Devonish pit people at the post several times after not being fastest in practice.
Yeah, spot on there, Bags. There probably was a late run of drivers trying to get in a qualifying lap or two, and I think Zierison was probably one of those. Pete Savage's best time actually came about halfway into the session, so different programs for different drivers, and I wouldn't be putting it past us tonight to see the Lamborghini start to come to the fore a little bit more as this qualifying session wears on. But for the moment, Xeris is the man we're going to watch. So he's through turn 1 and up to the hairpin at turn 2, which is actually nicknamed Curvaduan after Mick Doohan. And as you said, basically, it just opens up a little bit on that apex. It's not a full 180-degree corner, but it is probably the tightest corner on the track in terms of speed that you take through it. Now through this sort of infield section, these flowing compound corners, as Michael put it before, just moving from one side of the track to the other side of the track to set yourself up, and there's got plenty of time in between most of the turns in Sector 1. And this is where it starts to tighten up a little bit. Getting into the infield sector, long radius sweeping corner, so 180-degree turn to the left, up through the flip-flop, and then another 180-degree turn to the right to go back the other way. And then we get to the tricky section. So this very, very quick uphill right-hander is very tricky to get right, and Xeris does that pretty well. Takes a little bit of curb, and then this long sweeping left-hander that has already got the nickname of the pregnancy belly, because when you look at it on the map, it looks like someone with a pregnancy that's about to give birth. And then that track that's falling and falling and falling away from you as you go down to the final corner. Very tricky braking zone to get right, and Xeris stops the clock at a 1:31.5.
And surprisingly manages to hold first place. Peter Savage on that lap had the splits in turns sectors 2 and 3, but in that last sector seemed to make a little bit of a mistake, a misjudgment, and actually slots in just behind Xeris. So 31.5 plays a 31.7 at this stage. Remember, that's about a second away from what they were doing at the end of practice. So expect to see the lap times tumble from at least those two as we head more towards the middle of this qualifying session. There's an absolute traffic jam starting onto the main straight at the minute, with about 6 cars separated by less than 150 meters. So we'll keep an eye on that as Greg Turret just eclipses it.
Yeah, he's shot to the top, and Pete Savage has actually set a purple sector in Sector 1 on this lap as well, so he's not wasting any time either. No purple sectors for Tara in that lap as well, so actually Steve Bolger has the quickest third sector at the moment, and Will Devonish has got the quickest second sector. So royalties being shared across the board here, as Pete Savage is still up, and he's up by quite some margin on the pole time as well right now. Now, we're just remembering we got into the 30.5 bracket in practice, so that's the times that they'll all be starting to try and data themselves against. And Peter's gone wide at the final corner. Very, very wide. Be lucky if he gets a track cut there. I think they are a little bit lenient here tonight. And he's gone with a 31 flat. So he actually gained time in all 3 sectors, only purpling Sector 1.
It's a very good lap from Peter there.
That's a sensational lap.
Despite looking very clumsy in that final corner as well, he was able to keep it relatively on the track and still going fast, more importantly. Something that'll be interesting to see here is, because this is a MotoGP circuit, this track is more designed for cars going, or rather bikes going side by side and be able to cut under each other very easily. And just because of the fact that these are cars and they're much wider, it'll be interesting to see if people can take advantage of that the same as the motorbikes can usually be dancing amongst each other. There's only one real straight where you can slipstream, and that is this main straight, as we watch Will Devonish take second place, 3/10 off of Peter. It'll be interesting to see if the length and slipstream on the front straight is enough. It might be a fact of, if you want to get past someone, you have to shadow them the whole lap, keeping right in their wheel tracks, then punch past them on the main straight.
I don't necessarily think you can't pass anywhere else. One thing that you can really do with these compound corners, as I'm watching Peter bound over the curbs into the pregnancy hump, is you can set someone up by undercutting into the second apex. So, for example, if you're looking at turns 9 and 10, so where you're going from the left to the right for that double apex left right-hander, as we're just watching Peter cross the line to break the 1 minute 30 barrier, a 30.887, so getting close to those lower lap times. And what you can do is you can actually arrow to the inside apex, so that way you're actually taking the turn-in point away from the guy ahead of you. And we can see, I bet we'll see a few really daring passes like that, especially if someone gets caught behind another driver who might be a bit slower, like we saw last week with Wayne Whitmore holding up Lewis Wedding and Will Devonish for a few laps. So I think we'll see some very interesting choices in terms of line and position markers as this qualifying session is now halfway done.
Geez, that's gone really quick, hasn't it? Halfway through the session already. Only 3 drivers yet to set a time. Lime Mitch, John McDonald, and the aforementioned Paul Morris, who's a late entry tonight.
We've got new fastest lap from Will Devonish, 30.868. Yeah. So only 19 thousandths of a second separating the top 2 at this point in time.
Yeah, not much involved in as well. One of the men that has not set a really representative time at the moment is Brenton Foley, all the way down to 19th, and his best lap is actually, it was only a 59.6, but this is probably going to be the one that vaults him up the order, following his teammate there in Cracker, who just runs wide at the last corner, as a lot of people have been doing. That's not going to hamper Foley too much. He'll get a little bit of a drag here down the front straight. He's going to probably be in the low or high 31s, and he goes to 8th, the 31.8, which is a little bit more what we expect from Foley.
That's actually Foley's best lap of the night as well.
Yeah, one of the drivers that said was struggling a little bit with the track, but still needed to press on. He's in the thick of the title fight. He's, in second spot at the moment, just 1 point ahead of Will Devonish. So he doesn't want to, lose too many points to him tonight. Even if he finishes behind Will, putting points on the table is going to be very, very important. With the 3 tracks that lie ahead after tonight being Shanghai, Monza, and Watkins Glen.
Just a new runner at the front of the field. Xeris has set a 130.774. So it's got him a whole 10th clear of Will Devonish and Peter. So with only 6.5 minutes left, there is not too much time. Peter's just started a lap. Will Devonish is taxiing out for his next attempt, and it's going to be approximately 4 laps left for each of them, assuming they're fueling for 2 or 3 laps at a time.
That's very tight at the top at the moment, isn't it? Only a 10th and a half, or less than a 10th and a half, separating the top 3. Then you got Paul Morris has just vaulted up into 5th place. That's a stonking lap from him. That's in the BMW actually as well. So the lead BMW at the moment, mixing it up with Brendan Ross's Bentley Continental and Greg Turra's Porsche. Even Aaron Thomas in the BMW, not too far away there as well. So there's some really good scraps going on right now for position on the grid to start tonight. Just in that top 10 alone, there's quite a number of drivers that can swap and change very quickly. Even people down to 14th and 15th. Matt Schwass and Termo separated by 0.04 of a second. There's Turra vaults, Noah Turra that is, vaults across the curbs at turn 12. There's a lot of positions that can change here very, very quickly in the next 5 and a bit minutes.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be back and forth in the midfield as well. And looking over the midfield, there's only about a second. Well, there's a second and a half between 4th and 16th. So it's very close all throughout the midfield. I'm just having a look at Peter has crossed the line to take first position. Ooh. And that was on not a personal best first sector either. He was a 10th and a bit down on his personal best in the first sector. So if he can get his first sector nailed, he's going to have a very, very hard to beat lap.
Well, we're now into the time bracket where we were in practice. So Peter's best was a 130.685, so he's taken 0.04 of a second off of that PB. Xeris's best, as we said, was a 130.632, so Xeris has still got a little bit of time in there. He knows he can do it. And this is also a man who was complaining a little bit about the track tonight. He wasn't looking forward to it, but yet he finds himself at the pointy end of the field, which is something that we're familiar with in ARW, isn't it, Bagsy?
100%. He's never far from the front. The only thing that really stops him is strategy.
Well, we hope that the strategy doesn't befuddle him like it did at Donington, as Peter's lap has just been ruined by just understeering off the end of the curb down there. I think that's about turn 8. So this has ruined his lap, already 1.1 seconds down on his own provisional pole time. Where's Xeris at the moment, just running around on an out lap.
We've just had it's not Bagsy, Bolger jump into 3rd place on the grid, provisionally, with 30.862. So that top 3 now getting very, very tight. He's only 6 thousandths ahead of Will Devenish, who's currently on a PB, just broken the 2nd sector mark, just a 10th outside of the current pole time. So could even see Will Devenish jump up into provisionally 2nd as he comes through the final complex of corners, braking downhill as the track falls away, and he's missed the apex by a mile there. So that could compromise his lap. Coming across to end the lap, let's see where it puts him.
Yeah, it cost him a position, but it didn't cost him very much time. He actually gained a little bit there. But you're right, Steve Bolger's coming to play as well. Bolger was on a PB lap as well.
Might be... Yeah, he might be able to take this straight back if he's able to. Oh, it was a big lock up there. Thing is, even if you lock up and go wide in this final corner, you can still carry a lot of speed just because of the way it opens up a little bit after the main braking point.
He does take it back. Look at the margins, though. The margins are so minute, it's not funny. Devenish took about 0.03 of a second off of his PB. Bolger's taken 29 thousandths off of his. So the margins are minuscule at the moment. Xeris is not far off of his own PB, still 0.3 away from the pole time. He's going to get another 2 laps if he gets across the line safely.
Peter's currently 400ths away from his PB through the 2nd sector.
So here he is. He's actually not too far behind Xeris as well. So these two are going to get another 2 laps if they've got fuel for it. This could be a grandstand finish, not just from race point of view, but also from a qualifying. As Peter's having a moment off the final corner, and I could see it there. There he goes. He's gone straight through. Let's have a look at the replay on this one, because he did have a bit of a moment. Let's see where he is. So this is coming through the final sequence of corners through turn 12. A little bit of curb at 13, so it didn't unsettle the car. Maybe just got his braking zone a little bit all wrong here. So just tried to push the envelope a little bit, and right rear tyre was on the curb, and nice power slide through the corner. But no, that's him. He's not going to be setting any further lap times.
He could. He's actually just exiting the pits now, so he's
not going to get around for a lap, though.
Yeah, no, just not. So this now comes down
maybe.
It'll be really tight. We'll have a look at Bolger. He's crossing the line now, just behind Noah Toro, and he goes to the top, a 30.639.
Wow.
So that's the new benchmark. I've got eyes next on Peter, who is just coming through the Sector 2 marker now. He was up to the 1st sector on the previous pole time, but that's going to change. Sorry, not Peter, Xeris rather.
Yeah, Xeris has got traffic, but it got out of the way in the form of Luke Joyner, so that was really fortunate for Xeris and very well done for Luke Joyner.
Devenish is one to look at as well. He's gone purple in the 1st sector, or personal best by at least 2 tenths up on the pole time, rather.
Xeris very neat and tidy through the final corner as well. And he's aborted it. He's aborted it. He's given it away. So he wasn't fueled for another lap. So that's Xeris was probably the best man who had a shot at that time there. Devenish was up through the 2nd sector split. So Will Devenish was pretty handy through sector 1. It was a 28.099, 30.9 in the middle sector, which is not purple. Purple in neither sector, but tracking nicely. Again, misses the apex on the run through the final corner. Will get another lap if he's fueled for it. Is this time good enough to go to the top? No, just one more spot again.
But he's got another lap. Now, watching Peter cross the line, is he going to get another lap? No, time's done. So he's missed out. Devenish will be the last one to get a lap time in, and he's going to be the only one with a chance to take that pole position away from Steve Bolger.
And Bolger gives it away, so Bolger wasn't going to improve his time. So the man that we're going to have to keep an eye on is Will Devenish. Let's see who else is coming across the line at the moment. 22nd place man, Lion Mitch, only good enough for 20th. 4th place man.
There's actually no one else on the track apart from John Mcdonald, who's just ahead of Will Devenish.
And Devenish is up through the 1st sector split as well. Now, John Mcdonald has set a time. It was a 35.8, so that's actually only good enough for 20th at the moment. So he's the only man ahead of Devenish at the moment.
and he's going to
Actually,
affect Devenish's lap here.
Actually, Wayne Whitmore is also out there as well, but I think that he's crossed the line and finished. And look, Devenish up to the second sector split, so this is crucial. John McDonald is on a hot lap, and is he going to get out of the way? This is the important thing. This is going to ruin Will's lap
that's
at a
all
pole.
that's done.
Oh no, John was on a hot lap, and Will, I think, has been balked here, but well, that'll be debated after this is over. And yeah, Will's aborted it, so he's done for that one. So he was looking like he was going to, he was purple in Sector 1 by a margin too, by over a tenth and a half. And unfortunately, that is the end of what probably could have been a possible pole position for Will Devenish. But nonetheless, very, very tight margins in the end. Have a look at it. Bolger to Peter, only 43 thousandths. Back to Devenish, 84 thousandths. 0 a tenth and a little bit away. So top four covered by 13 hundredths. That is mighty.
And then a big gap after that to Turra and Paul Morris, and then Foley and Brendan Ross to the rest of the field. So it really, the top four really beginning to separate themselves out from the rest of the GT3 field at this stage of the championship. Honestly, I would, if I was Will Devenish, I'd feel pretty aggrieved towards McDonald there, because even though McDonald did end up improving, he was still a second and a half away from the next position up the road. So it would...
Yeah. But McDonald has every right to set his fast laps as well, even if they're not at the point Devenish's is. If Devenish wanted to have had a better shot at pole, he should have set the fast lap sooner.
I mean, yeah, there's that as well. But I think sometimes, you know, discretion is the better part of valor. If you're a second and a half away from the tail of the field, it's probably better to, you know, let the guys who are at the front battle it amongst themselves and not try and get in the way. But that's just my thinking of it. But oh well. I mean, it's all very well easy to say from the commentary booth, but when you're out on the track, it's a lot more difficult to try and manage those things. But yeah, anyway, what a cracking qualifying session.
It was good to see, actually. The margins that were being gained by people at the head of the field as positions changed was no more than a tenth of a second per lap, which was absolutely bizarre. It was not like the kinds of margins we've seen like at Bathurst or Donington, where the positions were changing by virtues of, you know, a couple of tenths of seconds. These were so minute, which I guess goes to show what sort of racing we can possibly expect tonight.
Hey, if we get gaps that are that close in the race tonight, I'm going to be absolutely over the moon. I think the drivers will be over the moon as well, because that's exactly the sort of stuff you want to be seeing.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who's got the race pace now. We have seen some pretty spectacular drops in position when people have had all the qualifying pace but not the race pace, or just some bad luck.
Gents, I guess I'm going to put it out there now. Top performance in qualifying, I guess we can sort of, you know, hang our hat on pretty well and sort of go, well, we know who they are. Biggest disappointments, who's not so far up the order that you kind of expected to be up the order after qualifying. Foley obviously came a little bit late into the session, was a bit worried about his pace in practice, so getting up as high as he did to 7th place was actually pretty good. Someone for me that I think probably needs to be a bit further up the order, and I expected to be a bit further up the order given that they are essentially a gold class driver, is Termo, all the way down to 16th.
Yeah, I saw that as well. That was the one that was jumping out at me too, was Termo not getting 16th. Line Mitch didn't say lap, but I believe that's due to a penalty potentially, because otherwise I can't think of why he wouldn't have said a lap.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a penalty held on from the last round. I'm actually a little surprised that Ozrob isn't further up as well. We've seen great pace from Ozrob and the Lamborghini throughout this season, and for him to be over a second away from the pole time and almost a second away from the beginning of that second group, you know, led off by Greg Turra, I would have thought that that he could have done just a bit more. So, I mean, he is in 10th place, sure, but yeah, I would have expected a little more from Ozrob.
Yeah, he's inside the top 10, which I guess he can sort of look at and say, all right, well, I got inside the top 10, and that's a pretty decent starting position for me. A few others that are probably on the cusp. I mean, Mitch Hathaway hasn't done very much running in GT3, but he has done a lot of running in the supercars. So the crossover there is, you know, there's a few other drivers that have crossed over from supercars into GT3 every now and again. His teammate over there at HDS Racing, though, which is Billy Dougal Solonga, but in the game tonight is actually being referred to as Paul Morris, a lot further up the order, but in different machinery as well. Given that all the cars have been, I guess, rebalanced to give a bit more equal performance, normally it's Mitch that's a bit further in front of BDS when they're running around in supercars, but the shoe's on the other foot on this occasion.
Yeah, it's a little surprising, to be honest. Nothing against Billy Dougal Solongo, who I think is a great driver in supercars. Yeah, I just would have expected Mitch to be a bit more on pace. In saying that, though, that is a cracking lap from BDS. So yeah, props to him for putting that one in and really cementing himself in the top 6 at the moment.
Yeah, top BMW M6 running around. And speaking of qualifying, there were a few people that obviously were watching along in the live stream. And Phil Boak, the other half of PBF Race Engineering over there at the Supercars Championship, agreeing with us. It said don't agreeing with Mcdonald being in the way and that he had every right to be there because he was on a hot lap, which I kind of thought myself, same thing. Yep, he was out there and he agreed to be on the lap, but I guess the difference in pace, I think, is what caught a lot of people out, isn't it? Will just caught him so quickly, it wasn't funny.
Yeah, and look, just because you have every right to be here doesn't mean it makes sense to be there. And like as I said, it's easy for me to say in the commentary booth when I'm not on track and not dealing with all this sort of stuff. But I guess it just would have made more sense to sort of step out the way and let the guy who's chasing for the win have the better run of the track. And yeah, it's fine that he was there, and it's, as you said, he has every right. So if I was Will, I'd be annoyed and I'd be aggrieved, but at the end of the day, he does have the right to be there. Doesn't mean I wouldn't be mad.
Now, the one thing that'll be happening right now is there's no track activity is the driver's briefing, which will be getting conducted by Lewis Wedding down there in the Discord channel, and they will be going over the new safety car procedures if and when the safety car makes an appearance. Now, the rules have changed a little bit since the dilemmas of Donington and also what happened up at the mountain. The new procedures are basically the car will come out, safety car will come out. Lewis will be instructing the drivers on what to do. So they'll form up based on how the safety car picks up the field. So, of course, it'll pick up the leader and everybody will form up behind. If there's any cars that are out of position, Lewis will instruct those cars to go around to the back of the field safely, so they'll be able to go past the safety car, loop themselves around. The pit lane will open on the first occasion for the lead lap cars. Cars a lap or more down will go on the second lap. Basically, their instructions are ignore what the game tells you to do. Lewis will credit laps where laps need to be credited. Penalties will be removed where penalties need to be removed. The only exception being that if you try and get ahead of the safety car at any point in time, say for example in the pit lane or when the safety car comes into pit lane, if you're not behind it on the run to the start-finish line to resume racing, you will be given a penalty in that instance. But if drivers that are out of position or that have been directed to go out of position based on what the game's telling them, Lewis is going to sort those penalties out just to avoid any more carnage from what happened last time. And in the event that we get another Liam Spencer situation from Bathurst, Michael, that will pretty much eradicate any possibility of that happening again. Shame that it's come to that, but unfortunately, for some weird reason or another, the safety car behaviour's been a little bit strange as of late.
Well, isn't it one of the joys of Automobilista that the safety car is almost a wild card and everything, which is unfortunate, of course. It's not what you want races to be decided by. But yeah, from what I've heard, my experience with the safety car in Automobilista, it does throw a lot of spanners in the works. So I think it's good that Lewis has taken it upon himself to really sort of sit down and work it out externally and be the one that has that objective eye and can sort out all those little problems that we've been having. Unfortunately, that means he can't race as well, which is a real shame and a real loss to the series, but it's probably better for the few rounds that we have left. I think we've got 4 races, including tonight, left, that we have someone really just calling the shots when the safety car comes out.
Yeah, and Bagsy will attest to this as we bring up the GT3 calendar, that the safety car has pretty much been a fixture of the Monza round, which we're sort of expecting it to, in the back of our minds, to make an appearance at Monza in about a month's time, Bagsy, on June 16.
Yeah, it's just so much speed at Monza. It's so easy to lose it in a chicane and suddenly you're across the track and yes, safety car straight away because there's a car in a horrible position in the game. It's like, nope, you need a safety car immediately, even if they might be sliding off the track. And it's just the way the track is, but it also makes for some excellent racing. And every time I've been to Monza, it's been quite good.
Yeah, well, as we said, we go there in a couple of weeks' time, June 16. Between then and now, we've got the Shanghai round, we've got tonight, and then we've got the finale at Watkins Glen. So a couple of 90-minute races, including tonight, to go. The Shanghai round next round out, so 2 weeks from now, 2nd of June, and then the finale on the last day of the financial year, June 30 for Watkins Glen. The one that, on top of the safety car always sort of making an appearance at Monza and also sort of being a fixture, I guess, as Michael put it, in GT3 and endurance racing, the one other common thing that's been happening in AMS Oz endurance racing since day dot is we get to go down to the last race of the season and we still have a championship to decide, Bagsy, which is incredible given that this is the 5th season and all 4 seasons to date have been decided at the final round. Potentially looking like we might be heading that way again, but I'm not going to sort of, put my foot in my mouth, but with how tight standings are, there's a very real possibility of it yet again.
Yeah, and our point system helpfully ushers along these sort of scenarios, which is very nice. It rewards consistency. So even if you are having a dominant season, just one dropped race is going to cost you big time. And that helps keep everything nice and snug at the top end of the field. I mean, even Lewis Wedding was still in with a shot if it competed in the last 4 races. And he was almost 40 points behind Bolger in the lead. So it's going to be hopefully down to the last race. It only takes one bad race from Foley Devonish and Bolger having decent results to actually end the championship a race early. So Bolger, even though he's at the front end of the field today, will be able to just relax a little bit knowing he's got a 12-point lead and it's just coming around in second every race is almost all he needs to do as long as it's not Foley or Devonish winning all the other races.
Yeah, that's the big catalyst, isn't it? If we go back to the points graphics, actually, this is probably a very valid point that we need to bring up here. So that's the team's points there. We'll go back to the drivers' point standings. So Bolger out in front by only 12 points. You get 25 points for a win in GT3 here. Foley and Devonish only within a point of each other. Now, with Wedding unfortunately out of the action, the only other man who really can sort of mathematically threaten at the moment over the next 4 races, including tonight, is Ziris. So he's really going to have to get his skates on tonight. He's up the pointy end of the field out of the top first 2 rows tonight, so in a really, really good position and has got some pace that looks like he can seriously challenge for a win tonight. But he really needs to put a couple of good rounds together and hope that the guys ahead start to have a bad one or two or finish a little bit further down the order.
Realistically, he needs a bad 3 or 4 from the people at the front because there's 100 points on offer to the end of the season and it's just not quite going to be enough. If he can get to a maximum of 137, Bolger needs less than 50 points to get there. So just a string of 4th places is really going to be enough for Bolger.
Well, the points actually drop off pretty aggressively once you get past first place. I think it's 25 for a win, 18 for second, and then 15, then 12. So if Bolger comes 4th for the next 3 rounds or 4 rounds, that's not quite enough. That's not quite the 50 points that you need to just sort of put Ziris away. So it's absolutely not likely. I won't say that it's likely, but it's not unheard of.
I think in that scenario, if Ziris gets first and Bolger gets 4th every race, I think they would end up tied on points with Ziris winning on the wins count back, just based on 4th places being there's 48 points between them at the moment.
Well, we have done some scenarios. I think the last time out when we had Lewis Wedding and Brenton Foley go down to the wire at that twilight race at Adelaide at the end of last year, we did actually have to put up some possibility scenarios in the event of a deadlock, what the tiebreakers were going to be, because it could mathematically it was a possibility that it might happen. Thankfully, it didn't work out that way. It was a bit of a, what's the right word for it? I'm looking for a bit of a disappointment at the end, because Lewis got tangled up with a back marker, I think about 20 or so minutes from home, when it was just starting to get to the crescendo, and it just took all the air out of that finale,
Yeah.
didn't it?
Yeah, it's a shame when that sort of stuff happens. Kind of like a big anticlimax you've been building up for the whole season at that point, and then just something stupid like a tangle with a back marker or a lapse in concentration just ends the theater of it, really. And that's kind of what it is when you get to the end of a season, going down to the last race. It's the theater. It's the theater of sports. And yeah, that's some of the best moments I think I can think of in racing, in those final moments in a championship that goes down to the wire.
Yeah, that's one of the things that fellow commentator that I do some commentary with in the Victorian State Series, Darren Smith, sort of calls it the theatre of motorsport. Enter stage left, exit stage right, especially when you're sitting in the commentary box. Then usually they come from the left and they go to the right. If you're at Sandown or if you're at Winton, for example, they come from the right and they go to the left. So, exiting from one side of the stage to the other as they sort of come into your field of view. So it is a bit like a theatre, and there's plenty of theatres around the world where everybody likes to portray their racecraft, and it just so happens our one tonight is in Spain at Valencia. So a bit of a weird choice that it came up. In actual fact, the man who put the calendar together was Mike Coulston, and I remember asking him on the lead up to putting the calendar together. He said, I want to do this track, this track, this track, and we were all looking at it going, well, that looks like a pretty good one. And I was a bit confused. I thought, Mike, which one do you want to do? Do you actually want to do this Valencia that we're racing tonight, or are you considering the Grand Prix circuit Valencia? You just said Valencia, didn't say which one. And I think it took him about 3 weeks to actually make his mind up about which one he wanted to do. And it turned out it was this one. And I reckon it could possibly deliver the kind of racing I don't think we've seen for a little while.
Well, we've seen a lot of good racing recently. It's just a very different sort of brand, because I think this would be probably a bit more attritional than we've seen in a few other rounds, simply because the track is so complex.
Well, that's all right. I think that was probably me having muted myself, not actually having spoken in that way, in that case. But no, as I was just saying, that the GT3 machinery, I think that there's probably a bit bigger than some of the machines that we may have seen go around here at a previous time, and most of those I think probably would have been something like a World Touring Car Championship.
As you made mention, World Touring Car is not really the same sort of size as GT3, so it's going to be very different. See if we can get some good passing, good racing, good tight competition tonight.
Yep, here we go. Look, I think we just solved our sound problem, so hopefully, guys in the live stream, your sound has returned. Looks like there was just a little bit of a slight hiccup on our end. But the field already assembling on the grid very, very quickly, actually, which is good to see. Actually assembled well in advance. Now, one of the things that the field will have been told is that the pace car does have a few random points on the circuit where it does get a little bit out of whack. It just slows down a little bit. One of those is at the pit lane entry and exit, and a couple of corners as well. So they will have been told just to lay off the back of the safety car for the formation lap and for whenever the safety car comes out. You know what? I'm going to hand this to Michael for a run through the grid for a change, Bagsy. I'm sorry, I'll let you call the start. But Michael, let's have a look at this grid.
Brilliant. Oh, I haven't done this in a while. Steve Bolger will lead the way from pole position in the Gravel Shed Racing Lamborghini. Of course, our championship leader at this point in time, as the field backs up behind the pace car, just as Nether told us it would. Peter Savage for Team Antara Loose Sim Sport out of second place. Will Devonish in the Wedding Crashers Lamborghini from third, and then Xerus from fourth place. It was half a second from Xerus to Greg Turrer in fifth in qualifying. He's the only Porsche in the field this evening. And then we have Paul Morris, also known as Billy Dougal Solonga, out of sixth in the Rover Racing BMW, the lead of the BMWs tonight. Seventh place is Brenton Foley, second place in the championship in the Apex Rear Wing Viper, so hopefully he'll be looking to come through the field. Brendan Ross in the Bentley is out of eighth place. And it's the first of the MHRT BMWs, Aaron Thomas, the MHRT number 91 machine. Osrob, the second of the Gravel Shed Racing Lamborghinis, out of 10th. And then it's a Noah Tara, the first of the Nissans tonight, out of 11th place. 12th is Zach Ross in the 888 Race Engineering AMG. And he's joined on that row by Mitch Hathaway, also in the AMG, for HDS Racing. The only Lexus in the field is Steve Burko out of 14th, and then it is Termo from 15th in the R Motorsport Aston Martin. Luke Joyner is the second of the Wedding Crashers Motorsport Lamborghinis tonight. Then it is Cracker, Wayne Whitmore out of 18th, John McDonald out of 19th, Glenn Miles in the second of the R Motorsport Aston Martins, Matt Schwass in 21st, which is a little disappointing for him and for Gravel Shed Racing. And then bringing up the rear of the field is Lime Mitch, who was excluded from qualifying and didn't set a lap. And that is your 22-car field for tonight.
Really good, healthy grid. We thought the numbers might be a little bit lower earlier on in the week, but no, good to see we've got 22 starters on this circuit. So the safety car's just checking up. The field is going to have to watch themselves. There they all go. Safety car will peel off, and we'll let Bagsy call the start of this race.
Bolger has the field now. They head up to line. Bolger is on the left. Peter is on the right. Devonish and Xerus behind them. As they come to the line, and we're racing, Bolger's put the foot down. He's absolutely dropped Peter. Peter drops in behind him. So it goes Bolger, Peter, Devonish, Xerus into the first corner. They've already gone line of stern. Devonish has been given a penalty straight off. I'm assuming they'll be rescinded because they didn't seem to do anything wrong there. And they're all nice and tidy through the first corner. We go Bolger, Peter, Devonish, Xerus, Greg Turrer, and then I believe that is Brenton Foley, who's jumped up one position at the start. There's actually, the timing screen seems to be a little bit off at the moment as I scroll through. But yeah, a very good start from Bolger. Got the jump on Peter there and didn't give anyone a chance to get going. Devonish as well, not quite on it and wasn't able to capitalise on Peter. But Bolger, after that jump, has Peter right on the back of him.
Yeah, for some weird reason, the timing screen is playing up a little bit here, and Will's getting a bunch of penalties coming up on a regular basis. So I've got a funny feeling maybe something might have happened with the reset procedure for getting the server up and running tonight. It certainly hasn't been the case with some of the testing being done, as Bolger goes very, very wide and Peter slips down the inside. Will Devonish goes through as well, so too does Xerus. Oh, is Bolger having a problem here?
I think it's a problem.
Bolger's had either some sort of a problem or what's going on here. Our series leader has had a major issue off of what looks like to be turn 10. Oh, there's a bit of contact there as well with Noah Tara's Nissan and also with Mitch Hathaway's Benz going through. Bolger's
just as a side, guys, as the race actually started.
Yeah, I might.
Starting due to timing glitch.
Okay, so there we go. That's our live steward, Lewis Wedding. So well, thank God, Steve Bolger was having all sorts of dramas there, and for some weird reason or another, when the green flag was meant to be shown, it did not get shown. So that is essentially a red flag and a restart. So a little bit of a weird one. We have seen some of that happened before, but it was a very, very long time ago. There was actually a bit of testing being done prior to tonight's race, just to make sure that the new safety car procedures would work, and they did work. The race was actually running, the timing was working, so that's a little bit of an unusual one. So we are going to, I guess, take a little bit of a brief pause here, gentlemen, and we'll just step away from the broadcast for a few moments and let our fellow colleagues get themselves sorted. But that's wow,
What a weird one.
it was a weird one, but not only that, it was actually a very clean start. I was really surprised. Everybody got through, everything was pretty clean, and then the next thing, I thought that Steve Bolger had some sort of an issue. I was a little bit worried about the timer in the top left-hand corner and thought, oh, maybe it'll play some catch-up here. But no, we're going to get sort of restarted, and I think there's a few drivers that are having a couple of game crashes as well, so they're going to have to get those guys back into the server before we go any further.
I think Matt Schwartz might have been the only person we lost here. It was a bit interesting. It's probably the reason that Bolger got such a good start was that everyone else was thinking, why are you going? The race hasn't started yet. As Matt Schwartz re-enters, so they'll be placed in the position that he is meant to be starting in, and will hopefully be very quickly back underway.
Yeah, it'll just be a little bit of time here for, I think Lewis will probably have to just run the batch file that he does for the TCR series. When we have to do the reverse grid races, he's going to be setting up a similar thing, I'd imagine, just to reset everybody in the order, which is actually probably a good time.
Looks like it's already done, actually.
Looks like it's already been done, actually. Yeah, it's just been done right now, and we've got all 22 runners in there as well. So let's hope that Take 2 presents us with a race this time around.
Curious to see if the track wear has been reset back to base or not, because that could have an interesting effect on how this race plays out.
Yeah, just having a look now, and it looks like it's set to heavy, which is the sort of thing that we've been accustomed to when these servers get reset. I think what they've done is just sent it essentially back to the warm-up so we can reset the field. So that's a good thing. That means that the track grip carries over from what it was into the next session. I think Lewis just asking the drivers if they are ready to proceed, and if they all are, then we will be underway very, very shortly. I guess what we'll do while we wait for them to get everything up and running is we'll have a quick look at what is coming up in the next 4 race meets for AMS Oz. So the next time we go racing is actually Thursday night on this very channel. Outworld Broadcasting will bring you the Supercars Championship from Barbagallo Raceway, Super 2 on Friday night from Hidden Valley Raceway, in what's becoming a very, very competitive series, even for a series that was supposed to be for a bit of casual racing. The casual racing series has moved to the Track Day Challenge, which is on Monday, and TCR Oz at Simmons Plains on Tuesday, which unfortunately is no longer being live streamed, as there's only a couple of rounds left to go, and those vehicles are going to be put out to pasture, as Lewis calls it, at the end of the season. So only about 3 rounds remaining. So Lewis is stopping the streaming duties, and he's going over to have a bit of a drive of some of those cars before they go into the sheds for a little while. I think we're just about ready to go again, so let's go back to some live pictures.
Just quickly on the upcoming streams as well, Kiwi Chris and I will be doing TCAC from last week. We'll be streaming that tomorrow, as we weren't able to put a stream together for that last week. I actually made my AMS Oz debut in that race, seeing as wasn't doing any streaming. So if you want to see how that went, you can join us tomorrow night over on Short Shift Motorsport podcast. But anyway, back to this race, and we'll go through the field once again.
Well, we might give it to Bagsy this time, I think, so everybody can have a bit of a go. But off you go.
Apparently mixing it up slightly cursed the start of the race, so we'll go back to... We'll bring you back to your regularly scheduled grid and starting commentators. Steve Bolger, excellent run for first place. Peter, second. He'll be right on. He'll be hoping for a better start than the last start we had. Will Devonish as well was a bit slow on the uptake, and will hopefully get a bit of a better jump as well. Xeris in 4th. Came so close to pole, really. All these top 4 did. He'll be disappointed to be so far back in comparison. Greg Tara in 5th, the lead Lone Cub racing car. Paul Morris, BDS, with a very good showing for his BMW. Brenton Foley in 7th will be hoping to improve further on his starting position after having surprisingly little practice and still doing well. Brendan Ross appears to have missed the start and is still in the pit lane, so it's unfortunate for him, no longer 8th place. Aaron Thomas in 9th place, Matt Harvey Repair and Tune. Osrop Gravel Shed Racing, his compatriot, is at the front. He's in 10th, looking for some improvement. Noah Tara in 11th in the GTR. Zach Ross alongside him in 12th. Mitch Hathaway in 13th, with Steve Burko was alongside him, but is also starting from the pit lane by the looks of it. Termo in 15th, Luke Joyner 16th. Cracker in 17th alongside Wayne Whitmore. John McDonald is in 19th, with Glenn Miles next to him. And then Lime Mitch in 21st. So I believe we may have lost...
We've lost Matt Schwass. Yeah, it looks like Matt Schwass has had an issue. Yeah, so he did have an issue with his profile dying in between the restarts. So it looks like he did get back into the server, but looks like he's jumped or dropped out again, sadly. So only means 2 gravel shed cars in the field, 1 out of position 1, 1 out of position 10. All right, safety car checks up at the final corner. Everybody's I thought was a bit worried that they weren't paying attention there. So let's see if take 2 is better than take 1. And we'll know for sure because the timing will start to count down in your top left-hand corner. And there it goes. So we are up and running for the 90 minutes of Valencia. And the start from this time is very much the same as what it was to begin with, except Xeris has gone backwards. He's dropped at least 2 spots there. He was up at P3. He's now back to P5 already. BDS having a really good start and now going, actual fact, I think maybe BDS might have either missed a gear or something. He's gone back behind Xeris and alongside Greg Turra. Bolger and Peter kicking away pretty quickly, and Devonish and Xeris. And then there's a spin behind us, Brenton Foley. Brenton Foley is around, and I'm not sure if he was assisted in that process or if he had done that all by himself, but he's gone to the back of the field, and there's further crashes ahead. That's one of the Bentleys. Who did they get together with? And that's got back to with Cracker.
Lost it, and Cracker came around the corner unsighted and couldn't avoid him.
All right, so here's Brenton Foley's incident. So pretty conspicuous, and it's through this little kink here at turn 3. Oh, he got into the back of BDS and had to check up, and that's what sent the number 1 Viper around. And then let's have a look at the aftermath after this in front of Shot. There was a little bit of argy-bargy. We just caught the back end of it. Someone just ran into somebody else, so we didn't quite catch what happened there to Whitmore, I think it was, and Cracker. Thought we had a safety car for a minute, but it was just a localised yellow. So we're back to green flag running as Foley continues to try and make his way through the field.
I say BDS had a very, very good start, but actually I can't.
He's having an issue.
Something's gone wrong for BDS.
Yeah, he's down the field, so he's gone almost to the very.
17th.
Yeah, he's dropping right to the very back. Something's gone on. John McDonald's gone on the final corner as well. I wasn't sure if that was from contact. It looks like he may have just sort of gone a bit wide to avoid BDS there.
BDS, he actually got wide out of turn 12 and hit the curve there, which sent him a bit sideways. So that's where he's dropped his position. But really, it's this top 4 that have split themselves away from the field, and they're all engaged in battle at the moment. Bolger on the inside as they head into turn 4, but he's gotten over-undered by Peter Savage, who's going to try and take the lead. Bolger hangs around the outside, but can't prevent the move being made. Can he dive down the inside into turn 6? Yes, he can. He just holds the nose in there. That forces Peter Wyatt, and that brings Devonish and Xeris into this mix as well. This is very lively stuff for the first 2 laps of a 90-minute race, and Peter does prevail. But this group of 4 have already separated themselves from the rest of the field, and it's looking very much like what we saw in qualifying with this group of 4, and then the rest basically all squabbling between themselves.
And Greg Turra just had a back a shot there as well, just keeping tabs on what's going on here. But I must say the driving between all 4 of these drivers, even on lap 2, is top draw right now. Plenty of space being shown. And see there, Will Devonish just realised that he wasn't going to make the corner, which is something we've been teaching a lot of the younger guys.
Himself though.
Yeah,
he's compromised himself into this final corner. Xeris has just taken the exact Mercedes width that was given there and used it to get past Devonish into the final corner, but it's going to be a drag race down to the final corner, and we know Devonish has much better traction out of corners in that car. He's got his Lamborghini dialed in, and he's just pulled away.
Have a look at the field behind as well. Mitch Hathaway going defensive on Zach Ross there as well. Noah Turra's mixed into all of this. There's battles all the way up and down the field. This is like Zandvoort all over again from last year.
This is beautiful. This is beautiful stuff. Beautiful colors, beautiful field, beautiful different cars. And what it's doing is just a great showcase of GT3 racing. Devonish and Bolger are going at it again for second place. Bolger's looking very vulnerable at the moment. He doesn't look nearly as settled as he has in some other races. And he's really holding up the next two cars away. Peter's actually already gapped by about 2 seconds at the moment over this next group of three. Yep. So Bolger's acting as a bit of the cork in the bottle, and it's actually compromising Devonish enough to let Xeris have a bit of a look at him as they go into turns 7 and 8.
He was about to say that door opened for Xeris there, but he couldn't quite walk through it. Devonish has had so much better straight line speed off of that corner that he was able to out-drag Xeris to the next corner. So he's got to really pick his moments here, Xeris. He's got to stay close to Will, but as soon as that door opens, he's got to be through in a flash, and he's got to make sure he makes it stick.
And he's got to be careful because he's got Greg Tara closing on this gap. So Bolger's pace, we were talking about qualifying pace versus race pace. Well, Bolger's pace is absolutely nowhere at the moment. And it's bringing in not only Greg Tara, but Aaron Thomas and perhaps even Ozrob are back looking at this as potentially a position they can take, and potentially multiple positions if people keep getting held up. As Peter sets the fastest lap, he goes straight into the 131s, setting the stage early with a very big gap, 2.5 seconds to Bolger.
Just watching the field fan out down the main straight before they dive into turn 1. I think it was Zach Ross and Noah Tara having a bit of a battle there in the background, but focus is on second, third, and fourth yet again. Bolger still looking very vulnerable to the next of the Lamborghinis. In fact, they've actually managed to gap Greg Tara a little bit again. One of the things I've noticed about this circuit is that the way that the corners are sort of laid out one after another makes it very difficult to confirm a pass. I think we saw Peter and Bolger run side by side for about 3 or 4 corners before Peter finally made the position, as Bolger runs wide, very wide, and invites Will Devonish up to the inside, and he gets that move done very quickly. In fact, Xeris could even have a look as well as we go into turns 10 and 11. Bolger goes defensive and closes the door. But yeah, in general, because you have left-hand corners immediately after right-hand corners, it means you can block and defend very effectively. Unless you're really giving the position away, you do have a chance to really hold and make a battle. But at the moment, it looks like Bolger doesn't even have the strength and the pace to be able to do that, as he's really seems to be struggling in the early part of this race.
Noting a move, Zach Ross is having a move a bit further down the field at the final corner. You've got managed to get past Noah Tara. He's managed to get past Ozrob as well. There was lock brakes and all sorts going on at that point. Mitch Hathaway wants to buy into this now. He's had a fantastic drag off the final corner, but he can't decide who he wants to go with here. Is he going to go make it 3 wide down the front straight? Very nearly. No, he doesn't, but he picks off Zach Ross. So that's very opportunistic from Mitch Hathaway, and a move that started quite some time ago. Let's go back to a replay and have a look at it. Here they were through the final corner. Ozrob just outbroke himself. So too did Zach. And then Noah Tara said, "Thank you very much, I'll have that." And then Mitch Hathaway decided he was going to have a go as well.
And while we're looking at that move, Xeris has gotten past Steve Bolger somewhere in the first sector, so he already has a 1.5 second gap between himself and Devonish. So just that tiny bit of time, Peter had a few laps and he gained 3.5 seconds. Devonish had less than a lap and gained 1.5 seconds on Xeris. So it's just all about who could pass Bolger, and how fast it took them has really affected the start of this race, and will definitely play out in the first set of pit stops some advantages.
Yeah, Bolger was a bit of the cork in the bottle of that top 4, and now they've all spread themselves out. So we'll look a bit further down the field and tap into these 2 battles, firstly between Greg Tara and Aaron Thomas, and then between Noah Tara, Hathaway, and Ross. 2 great groups of battles here. In fact, Thomas is looking down the inside into the final corner on Greg Tara. He's narrowed his corner entry there, which is not going to give him any pace heading down the main straight, but he's got the slipstream going. Further back, you can see the next group of cars all fan out to try and take advantage of the slipstream of each other. And in fact, Thomas is going to go on the inside to turn 1 and really box Greg Tara out there. They're going to run side by side. And in the background, they're also running side by side. They're running almost 3 wide into turn 2. Thomas on the inside of Greg and Hathaway almost on the inside of Noah. But so far, none of them have actually made a move yet.
This is part of the problem that you were mentioning before, Michael. The way the corners are laid out, very hard to confirm the pass. There's only a couple of spots where you can do it. Turn 1 and 2 is probably the most obvious, because if you're on the inside for 1, you'll also be on the inside for turn 2. Little bit of contact between Tara and Thomas on that occasion.
That commitment to the outside by Thomas was incredible.
Did he just go around the outside there?
He just did. He went all the way around the outside, like the Buffalo girls like to go around the outside. Let's go back and have a look at that, because that was a supreme move. The inside wasn't working. He set this move up off of turn 4, sent it down the inside at 5. There wasn't anywhere that was going to happen. And then he decided, you know what, I've got to do something a little bit unorthodox here. And he went. He was late on the brakes, little bit of contact, but Greg gave him the space. And Greg just said, you know what, the gig's up. I'm going to let you go here. That was a fantastic move, though. That's what you've got to do at some cases. You've got to be unorthodox.
It was brilliant sort of stuff from Thomas. And what that's actually done is that's actually backed Greg Tara into the battle a bit further back with Hathaway, Noah Tara, Osrob and Zach Ross. So we've actually had a bit of movement in that battle pack now. Hathaway managed to get the move done into turn 8 on Noah Tara, and then Osrob pounced on that as Zach Ross checked up to jump into 9th. So we've got this 6.
Oh, there's contact! There's contact. That's between
contact.
That's Zach Ross and Osrob. So that was on the run into turn number 1. And I think Ross has realised that he's had a bit of a moment there, and he's going to have to redress that position. So he's checking up across the gravel trap. They're both just going to have to watch the rejoin here. So there's Osrob going through. There's Zach Ross. That's worthy of a replay. Let's have a look and see what that was all about. So let's get the onboard camera here from Zach Ross. A little bit loud. Just probably missed the brakes, I think. Yep. That's all it was. Just got on the brakes a little bit too late. Looked like he initially went for the brake. Maybe there was a little bit of a failure or something happened there, but that's a little bit abnormal. But that car lurched forward in a big hurry.
I was just about to say that we were going to have Paul Morris or Billy Douglas Longer and Brenton Foley were just coming up to that battle of 3, having both doing recovery drives at the moment. So that's just made it very easy for them. They would have gone through the first corner, seeing 2 people who they thought they'd have to pass just slide off into the distance. As I was just watching Noah Tara, and it looks like he's disappeared from the track as I was looking at him and has retired. So that's unfortunate for Noah Tara. Looks like an internet issue there
Yep,
for him.
we've seen that before as well, and we've also lost Wayne Whitmore a couple of laps ago as well, the first of the Bentleys to exit the stage tonight as well. So yeah, Noah Tara DNF running down the order, so we hope that that doesn't fall to Greg Tara as well, because they obviously are in the same household. I just saw a couple of cars there, and Foley's doing the same, and BDS is slowly doing the same. They're just inching towards that pit lane exit and using that apron to try and get a better turn in and a bit more pace for turn 1. A couple of cars actually kicked up a few of the delineators that are on the pit exit as well. So I'm not sure if Lewis Wedding's going to be taking a bit of a look at that and probably warning a few drivers, oi, don't do that, because if cars are coming out of the pit lane, then that's a problem.
It's one of those things where it's the fastest way around the corner is to get yourself out onto that pit entry, and it's sort of a poorly designed pit exit, and I mean it's designed for MotoGP, so it's a bit easier to work when you don't actually have pit stops during the race most of the time. But for us, when we have pit stops, it will definitely turn into some interesting scenarios. I think we were talking about it pre-broadcast, how it could end up being quite bad if people aren't paying attention or are just focused on the first corner and not what's coming out the pit lane.
It might even be interesting to see if it causes some people to make a few more mistakes, as Greg Tara gets very wide out of turn 12 and loses the position to Mitch Hathaway after bounding over that curve there. It could be interesting to see if someone who's normally... Oh, is that Foley half-spinning further back as well? I'm trying to make a point. Everyone's doing stuff. So he survives. He doesn't lose too much out of that, thankfully. But as we watch these guys come into turn 1, if a car's coming out of the pits, it means that the guys on the track are going to have to narrow that line. And there's actually a big, dirty old bump in the middle of the corner. And if you hit that, a little too quick or a little too wrong, if you've been used to using the wider line and all of a sudden have to squeeze in a bit narrower, we could see someone maybe unexpectedly fire off at the exit of turn 1. Could really play a big factor late on the race. So we'll keep an eye on that. Pit stop should be due in about 17-ish minutes. Should be a 2-stop race tonight. So it certainly wouldn't be unheard of to see something like that happen later on in the race.
Yeah, well, speaking of things that are happening and a bit later on in the race, with pit stop strategy being very important as well, it means that gaps between cars are going to become very important as to where you feed back into the equation. And Will Devonish is doing quite a nice job at the moment of starting to narrow the margin to Pete Savage at the moment. So the last couple of laps, he's been a couple of tenths quicker, and that gap is now inside of 2 seconds. As they get to the next timing intermediate. So Xeris has got Steve Bolger for company, so he's gone a little bit further backwards. He's dropped away from the battle. We wait to see what his lap time is when he crosses the line. So his last lap is actually pretty decent. Decent pace from Xeris to 31.9.
Yeah, both, or actually all three of Devonish, Xeris and Bolger have been running faster laps than Peter in Lee's last few laps. Bolger, after Xeris passed him, definitely stabilised. So I wonder if he just needed that carrot to chase after to be able to help him pace himself at the moment, because he hasn't dropped off the back of Xeris, really. He's actually gained onto him, as well as Devonish has gained to Peter what was a 4.5 second gap or 3.5 second gap is now down to under a second and a half, and Xeris's gap to Devonish was almost 3 seconds at one point and is down to 2.5 as well. So it's not, no one's bounding away. I could be that Peter is fuel saving. I haven't been on board to check. I might have a look at his on board soon and see if he's lifting off a bit early, because that will definitely save him some time at the end.
Yeah,
I wonder if, in fact, sorry to jump over you, Nether. I wonder if, in fact, Savage started his tyre pressures a bit further up, maybe try to make the most of those first few laps and jump Bolger at the start and really try to zip away, because that would make sense then why he's now struggling, as the tyre pressures maybe overheat a little bit, as Greg Torres just had a bit of a moment and dropped down to 9th. Into turn 8, had to deal with Billy Dougal-Salonga making a bit of a late lunge there, and has dropped to the tail of that group, which includes Foley and Billy Dougal-Salonga. So yeah, I wonder if the tyre pressures might have been a bit higher on Peter Savage, because that would make sense then why he was so quick off the line and then has slowly dropped away as the stint's worn on.
Yeah, look at his time there. It's a 32.1, and have a look at the guys behind as they all start to put their times in. They're all going to be in the 31s. Our live timing is unfortunately about a lap behind with amsoz.liveraces.com, so that's a bit unfortunate for us. We'd like to have it in a little bit more real time, but the gaps are visual between first and second and third and fourth at the moment. Third place Manziris can see this battle unfolding ahead, but not making the same sort of inroads into Will Devonish as Devonish is to Pete Savage right now.
Yeah, we could be ending up with 2 battles of 2 at the head of the field. It looks like that gap between Devonish and Peter Savage is now less than a second, and the same for Xeris and Bolger. So we've got 2 Lamborghinis chasing 2 AMG Mercedes at the head of the field. So yeah, interesting little period of this stint, and that we've got to look forward to. A little further back, Thomas is in a bit of no man's land. He's got 10 seconds ahead of him and 4 seconds behind him. And then the same for Hathaway, who's broken away from that next group on the track. So starting to see a spread in the back half of the top 10 as the top half of the top 10 start to close together.
We got further back, 11th, 12th and 13th between Termo, Osrob and Zach Ross. Oh dear, it's very...
Oh,
oh no.
That was bounding across the curbs. Who was that bounding? It was that Osrob just getting all out of control, and he's giving back the place. So that's sensible driving, just staying away and letting Termo go through there. We just caught the backside of what was going on with that. So looks like it must have been a bit of a driving mistake from Osrob going into what I think is about turn 8. Here we go. Let's have a look at it.
Yeah, they're all so close together, and it was just Osrob gets his braking wrong, and Zach Ross gets a little present with a ribbon on top.
Oh, I must say, it was good evasive action, though. He was going to run fairly and squarely into the back of Termo there if he didn't get out of it and find a way. Termo just wasn't able to pull it up in time to avoid it on the rebound. But look, that could have been an absolute disaster if Osrob hadn't managed to avoid it. Yeah.
Yeah, Mike in the chat saying Termo's being used as a crash barrier again, and the answer is unfortunately yes, he's not having the best time again. Back to the front, it's closed right up. It was less than 3/10 at one point. Devonish is zooming in on the back of Peter, and Peter Savage is not having any answers for him at the moment. I was on board with him, and he definitely wasn't any lifting and coasting, no wedding-esque fuel-saving strategies closing that gap up. He just seems to be under pressure. Will Devonish is having an advantage with this stage of the tyres, and it's just able to get a bit more out of these slightly wearing tyres now.
Well, coming,
Yeah, just last lap around. Sorry, another 32 flat for Savage, a 31.5 for Devonish. So big chunks of time starting to happen now as we cross the line. We'll check those numbers again for you. It's now about 7/10. So Devonish not quite as quick in the latter half of that lap. 31.7 plays a 31.7. So Savage actually answering the call that time around. But Xeris actually set a personal best, 31.6. So the gaps aren't really expanding too much, but they're certainly tightening up especially between these front two.
Bolger also with the 31.6 too.
Yeah, going to take a little bit of time. Yeah, going to take a little bit of time for the third and fourth place guys to catch up to position 1 and 2 at the moment, but just depends on how Peter can settle back into his rhythm. Coming back to your topic about the tyres from before, Michael, I heard some drivers saying that they were even starting pressures up toward the 180 to 190 mark in their setups earlier on tonight. So I'm wondering if that's coming back to bite them. Maybe that was good for some shorter runs, but as the run wears on, the tyres over-pressurise or they become a little bit more, a bit more of a different type of beast to handle, and you have to drive a little bit conservatively just to let them come back down to get a little bit more out of them type thing. Or maybe going with a different pressurising of the strategy, coming with a tyre that gives you a bit more grip but then has a little bit of a mid sort of pace or mid sort of stint lull, and then they come back to you, which we have seen in some cars that it takes, they can come back to you after a certain period of time as well.
Yeah, possibly. There was a bit of discussion in the practice before the race of what the optimum tire temperature was, and a lot of guys were quoting about 195 to 200 kPa as the marker. Is Will Devonish sets the new fastest lap of the race of 31.4, and he's all over the bumper of Peter Savage now. So it wouldn't surprise me if that might be one of the reasons as to why this pace differential has come about, because that's certainly one of the easiest ways.
Safety car. Wow. Okay, so there's been a safety car called, so this is going to put our new strategy into play here.
Greg Taro in the final corner.
Okay, so let's go and cycle through and find out what happened to Greg Tara here. So pits are closed. Let's have a look on our replay and see what happened here. So we're watching Greg Tara. He was chasing, that's Lime Mitch. Who was Lime Mitch was ahead, and yeah, they both got into each other. So that'll be it. That's the cause of that. So that's just a little outbraking manoeuvre. They didn't lose places out of it, they lost time. So the safety car nullifies that particular issue, and they carry on.
There's some very beautiful synchronized spinning there, rather.
So say swimming, what do you...
the Russian judge.
So swimming, what do you want about? We're not swimming in motor oil or petrol here.
Yet.
Now this comes at a bit of an interesting time. So we're about 22 minutes into the race, so really not quite 30 minutes into the stint. So people are going to be very furiously working on their strategies right now to work out if they can actually pit, which I expect most of the field will.
You've got to pit here. I mean,
you'll have to pit. It's just a matter of how far can you go into the race now that your strategy has been brought forward, in essence, by about 10 or so minutes.
Well, keep in mind now that we've got this lap under safety car first. So the safety car will have come out and is going to be picking up the leader. In fact, it's going to pick up John McDonald. So he should get the wave around once the field compresses. So you've got this lap under safety car. You've got a few further laps under safety car as well once the pit cycle wears out. So and that'll all eat into some time. So really, by the time this safety car period ends, it could be 102 remaining or 101, and that's a much nicer picture in order to get you to the end of the race. I wouldn't be surprised to see all of the top 10 or 15. I wouldn't be surprised to see everyone come into the pits. Maybe not this lap or maybe next lap, because you're basically getting a free pit stop. So it'd be interesting to see how people's strategies change in terms of how much fuel and how much tires they go. If they go for different tire pressures, we might see a bit of a change in the balance of the pace of the field. But really, you have to come in and pit at this stage.
Yeah, pitting's a no-brainer. It was just a matter of, I think everyone will be calculating their strategies to work out, okay, how much fuel do I realistically need to save once I've come out, to try and sort of stretch it to the next stop to make sure, let's say, for example, we go green flag racing all the way to the end after the safety car's been out, can you actually make it without the need to splash and dash? That's what I think everybody's going to be looking at here and seeing how much fuel they can save. The one thing that's going to be easy for Lewis Wedding in this particular occasion is John McDonald, having been released by the safety car, means that everybody's on the lead lap. So there's not going to be any issues with lap traffic in this situation. It's just going to be a matter of how busy the pit lane is. People like Steve Burko, John McDonald and Glenn Miles, who are a bit further off the back of the pack, are probably going to have it a little bit easier coming into the pit lane because they're so far off the back of the pack. And here they come.
It's going to be very, very interesting to see how this plays out. It's unfortunate the safety car could have come out 5 or 10 minutes early to make it a more interesting safety car, but here we go. Literally everyone coming into the pits. I don't even have to check who is and isn't.
Oh, there's a bit of
be writing down everyone.
there's a bit of bumping here as well with some drivers trying to get into positions in the grid box. It was Will Devenish rubbing across the front of Pete Savage. So we're just going to position ourselves right here at the end of pit lane. And who's that going to?
Foley's had a bit of trouble getting into his pit box.
Yeah, Foley has
He's
two.
not started his service yet.
Osrob.
Like Osrob maybe as well.
Yep. Osrob
and
is
Bolger potentially too. I'm not sure if Bolger's service has started yet.
I'm not sure, but I did notice that Cracker went through. So Pete Savage has gotten out, so he's managed to get away from Will Devenish here. Now, Devenish, I think, might be boxed in here with Osrob and the other Lamborghini of Steve Bolger ahead. Pete Savage is going to have a really easy run out here. So he's...
Oh, yeah, Devenish.
Yeah, Devenish is stuck.
Devenish can't get out, so that means Steve Bolger gets out. Xeris is going to get out behind. No, Aaron Thomas is going to get past Xeris. Xeris is going to come out fourth in the queue. Hathaway is going to jump them all.
Wow, that's amazing work from Hathaway there. So it'll be Hathaway, Thomas, Xeris, Billy Dougal, Solongo, Lime Mitch. Devenish out on after Lime Mitch, so he'll be down in like 10th. Then it will be Zach Ross, Luke Joyner, and then it looks like Termo, and that's Osrob behind him. So Osrob's lost out a little bit as well. And then there's Foley down back in 14th. A very long stop for Foley.
Penalty for Osrob. That's going to be, I'm not sure if that's for a pit lane speeding infringement. It has to be. It has to be. So Naughty Boy gets a slap on the wrist. And maybe
it looks like we've lost Greg Turra as well. I think he came in and
didn't come back out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe he thinks, I'm not sure if that's an actual retirement, or if that's a retirement due to a disconnect or what's going on there. It doesn't tell it. Just says DNF in our race. I think that's probably just a stock standard. Yeah. Come in and pull the pin, I think.
I was thinking Cracker may have played this smartly here by saying, because I think he's going to pit anyway, but I think by staying out and avoiding all the carnage that was in the pit lane, he's actually going to be able to potentially come out ahead of some other people who were around the same position as him, and also be a lap better on fuel and tyres.
Yeah, here he comes now, so you're absolutely right. Now, Pete Savage has got to be careful he doesn't go past him at the moment until the line's been crossed, so that's now all okay. And that'll all rectify that order. So, yeah, Cracker's got free run of the pit lane here, not having to worry about Brenton Foley being in the same pit box. So, I mean, everybody's on the lead lap, so it doesn't really worry Cracker so much in that regard. He's basically just going to come in. He's not going to have any problems getting back out onto the track. It's just a matter of where he feeds back into the equation. So if we pick him up, there's John McDonald, who's the last man on the lead lap at the moment, or out of all of them anyway. Where is Cracker in all of this? So he's currently 14th. Brendan Ross is going to go through, put him down to 15th place. There he goes. The next man is Steve Burko in his Lexus. And if Bagsy's keeping an eye on the pit lane, I guess we'll get an idea in a minute. Cracker's on the move. So Cracker on his way. So he'll go in.
He's going to be very close with Burko, but he's definitely going to be...
He'll be in between them, I think.
He's going to be 16th.
Miles is going to have to get his skates on here. I think he's actually going to lose out. So, yeah, and he is. So he slots in between. Just leave it, Glenn. Just be careful there. Now... Lewis will be on the
game's saying that he should be
behind Miles.
Yep.
Okay, so that's okay. That worked out all right then. So I was a bit worried there because the start-finish line is so far back up the main straight that because they'd crossed that line that maybe he was going to end up being ahead of Glenn Miles. So that's all right.
I think the actual safety car line is the line on pit exit. So where that entry to turn 1 is, where people were cutting across earlier in the race, I think that's actually the safety car line. So yeah, Miles was just ahead as Cracker returned to the circuit beyond that line. So I think that's why it's told him to slot in there.
So people who've done well from this, obviously Aaron Thomas and Mitch Hathaway, both jumping multiple positions and jumping 2 of the best cars in the pits. Will Devonish, the biggest loser out of all this, getting boxed in there and just had nowhere to go. But Lime Mitch up 15 positions now. He started at the back, and I'm guessing it was just a bit more circumspect with his pit stop and was able to avoid the carnage and get out right in front.
I think we're going to get one more lap under safety car here as the safety car does its song and dance routine off the exit of turn 14 and down the pit straight. So everyone's been doing pretty well.
Osrop and Foley pitting again.
Yeah, and that's probably not a bad move, I guess, from Osrop, given he's got a penalty to serve anyway. He's going to come in top off, and then he'll come and serve that penalty. But Foley, I think, is probably just thinking, well, I got boxed out of all of that anyway. I'm going to be at the back, so I may as well come in and top off. And, you know, as we said, getting to that point of, if we do have some green flag running from here, avoiding having to splash and dash at the end.
And Foley has said that one of the advantages of the Viper is its fuel economy. So we could see Foley here aiming up for a very, very long final stint. Middle stint of the race, looking to shorten up that last stint and shorten up that last pit stop. So we could see Foley crack on in the last stint of the race with some fresh tyres and a low fuel load and really come through the field if he's in a position to do so later on in the race. So we'll keep tabs on that, definitely.
John McDonald came in as well. So John McDonald came in and topped off as well. So just the one penalty hanging over from the pit stop sequence, which will be the pit lane speeding infringement for Osrob, as live steward Lewis Wedding just stuck his ears in the broadcast booth for a few moments and then disappeared. I was hoping we might be able to grab him for 2 seconds, but he's a very busy boy, understandably. And I would imagine we're possibly going to go back to some green flag running after this particular lap is concluded. So we did predict we were going to have around 54 to 58 laps. That was a conservative estimate at the beginning of the night, given the lap times are in the 1 minute 31s, 1 minute 32 bracket, factoring in the extra lap after the timer expires and the pit stop sequence. So just judging by the fact the safety cars come out, we're probably going to be somewhere in the window, given we've completed 18 laps inside the first 30 minutes.
Got something quick to point in just before we've got Lewis in here. Currently, the fastest man on track is Glenn Miles because everyone else was held up behind safety car. So I figured it's something that's not always going to happen. So I might as well say, Glenn, you're currently the fastest man on track. Good on you.
Well done, Glenn.
Well, Lewis has joined us very quickly in the box. Lewis, you happy with everything so far?
Yeah, everything's gone pretty good, except for Osrob. His penalty was for speeding in the pit lane, so he'll be getting his penalty sorted. And there was a little bit of a kerfuffle in the pits with Foley and Lime Mitch that may need to be looked at, but that will be done post-race.
Okay. Thank you for your comments, Lewis. Good to see that it's only a pit lane speeding infringement, a couple of minor scuffles, but nothing that can't be settled with a few boxing gloves after the race. Pits are now playing home to the safety car as Lime Mitch has got himself a 10-second stop-go penalty. That might be for being out of sequence. That'll be probably very quickly rectified by Lewis Wedding as we resume on lap 19.
So we're going to be seeing a very interesting period here with the likes of Mitch Hathaway and Aaron Thomas further up the field than some of our main men like Will Devonish, who had a huge moment. He was very lucky to hold on to that there as he came out of the exit of turn 1.
Yeah, tucked in behind Paul Morris there and very, very, very squirrely as his tyres are not up to temperature. Tried to put the power down and the rear end disagreed with that Lamborghini as a live steward has awarded Osrob. It says a 1 second stop-go penalty. I'm not sure what that's for, but we'll get some more lowdown on that during the race.
Maybe in place of a drive-through penalty?
And I think very possibly making it a 1 second stop-go rather than a drive-through. Might get you to go and have a quick sticky chat to Lewis Wedding about that one, Bagsy. See if you can get a lowdown on that for us.
Looks like it's been removed straight after, so it may have been a mistake.
Okay, I think I might know that may have been in regards to them possibly removing the penalty for Lime Mitch, which has been rescinded. You can see it's not there on the screen. Normally it'd have the traffic light signals, so may have been for something that wasn't supposed to be there, as per the new safety car procedure. Have a look at this. Xeris is caught in the middle of a BMW sandwich right here now, gentlemen. He's got Aaron Thomas, who's no slouch. Of course, Aaron Thomas had a broken foot as Xeris looks to make the move into the final corner. Going to have to make a move very quickly. That's decisive, and that's very, very good. Well done.
Well done. And that's actually compromised Aaron Thomas quite a bit. maybe opening up the door to his teammate. But yeah, Xeris very much taking away the inner apex there and forcing Thomas wide. But Thomas is actually looking back at Xeris as they head towards turn 1, taking a bit of the narrow line there. And then there's a trio of BMWs there. And Will Devenish is looking to pounce on all of them. He's gotten through on Billy Douglas Long. He's going to get through on Lion Mitch as well heading into turn 2. Is he? Yes, he is.
Yeah.
So that's 2 BMWs disposed of for Devenish. And he's now back up into 6th place.
2 for 1 special there for Will Devenish. 2 BMWs for the price of 2 positions. He's now in 6th position. 3 down from where he started, though. So it's still a lot to do for Will Devenish. Not only does he have to get past Aaron Thomas, but Xeris is going to be a lot more difficult for him to get past. He was already ahead of him when it came to Bolger, who's found a turn of pace just looking in the front. He's right on the back of Peter still.
I was about to go precisely there.
Yeah, and honestly, neither of them are really pulling away that fast from Mitch Hathaway compared to what we saw before. So, wondering if it's just everyone being a bit more circumspect with colder tyres, or if it's just the whole pace of the rest of the field's brought up a little bit towards the front guys.
Well, Bolger was actually looking very, very racy on Savage as they were coming out of turn 6. Actually got right up into the tailpipe of the AMG and actually had to take to the grass to avoid them as they entered the braking zone for turn 7. So very much a lot tighter at the front than we saw at the beginning of the beginning of the race, rather, as they come across the line to start.
Turmo's had a moment at the final corner. There was a little bit of smoke show in the background at turn 14. Turmo was wide. That's going to allow Brenton Foley to get down the inside for turn 1. Osrob coming in to serve the penalty in the left-hand side of your picture there. So Foley picks off Turmo the Terminator in the Motorsport Aston Martin and up to 12th place. Still down from where he started, though.
I'm going to bring us back up to 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Devenish just made the move on Aaron Thomas for that 5th place. So now he's on the tail of Xeris, who's on the tail of Mitch Hathaway. And Hathaway's doing actually a very good job of defending that position so far. Xeris hasn't been able to really make a move.
Oh, he's turned him! He's turned him! He's turned him! That's ended horribly. That's ended horribly for Mitch Hathaway, and Devenish had to take to this.
Devenish off wide as well.
Yeah.
Devenish had to take avoiding action, go out onto the grass. It's cost him 6 positions now.
Oh, that was the slightest of touches there. Let's go back and have a look at that on the replay from Xeris' point of view from the bumper cam. So through turn 4, this was up to turn 5. Just a little bit too late on the brakes. Just a fraction too late on the brakes, and he closed that margin down in a heartbeat. So looked a little bit harmless, but from the outside originally. But no, that's going to be a penalty every day of the week, I'd imagine, if Lewis Wedding has spotted that one.
Well, it has to be. It has to be spotted because that's massively affected Hathaway's race and also Will Devenish's race as well. Devenish is down in 11th now behind Foley.
And there's confirmation of it.
Through by the live steward for that contact, which I think is, unfortunately for him, a fair enough call. So there's really 2 of our main front runners taken out already in this race. So Xeris will be having to fight back from the rear of the field, and Devenish from 10th. We've seen Devenish with a few massive recovery drives, certainly, but it's really just allowing Peter Savage and Steve Bolger their own free reign at the head of the field, and they've used that to great effect, stretching out 3 or 4 seconds over the rest at the moment.
Yeah, they're allowing themselves to check out here. With the way that the field is currently sort of compressed, I'd be expecting to see Xeris pop in around about sort of 13th, 14th place, which is going to be around the markers where we're seeing John Mcdonald and Glenn Miles at the moment. So not the sort of thing you want to sort of be dropping into. Savage has a bit of a moment across the extra part of the circuit from one of the infield courses through the middle section of the circuit. Bolger really has found some pace, hasn't he? Really just that first stint, he was dropping off the pace like a bit of a stone, but sort of came back toward the back end of it. Now he's really got, his skates on, hanging on to the back of Peter as they continue to pull away from the field. The grip, I guess, level is going to be an important factor here. That's something that Greg Tara is mentioning in the live stream as well, that grip from the tyres was a major issue for him in the first stint there leading up to his DNF.
And
Yeah.
Bolger looks like he has the grip now as he dives towards the inside of turn 1. Very fast turn 1. Doesn't quite get it done though. So Peter managed to hang around the outside and hold on to that move. Yeah, I guess with the track having reset a few times, even if you put heavy track usage on it, doesn't quite emulate the fact that you've had a full practice session on it as well. So the track is still evolving, and we're going to see the guys maybe with as the race goes on, the tyres just getting a little happier throughout the stint.
The battle of the Beamers is currently being led by Aaron Thomas. He's gapped Lime Mitch a little bit, and Billy Dukes Longer and Zach Ross are having a little bit of battle as well, but a lot higher than we probably expected these guys to all be at this point in the race. And they're about to all gain an extra position as well when Xeris comes in for his drive-through penalty. Will Devonish has been having a battle with Foley for the last few laps. He's kept running wide around about turns 7 and 8, and has allowed Foley back through twice now, I believe. And they're both all up behind Luke Joyner, who Devonish has just dispatched.
Oh, and there's some contact there too. So there's a little bit of side-to-side contact between Foley and Joyner, and that's also allowed Brendan Ross to get through as well in the Bentley Continental. Joyner bouncing across the gravel traps in the grass. He's going to be careful on the rejoin here. And
Xeris is in to do his drive-through now.
all right, so we'll now see where he feeds into this. So Joyner will probably go through, and I think he'll probably just get out ahead of Xeris. Pit lane speed limit, Bagsy, correct me if I'm wrong, I think is about 60 k's an hour or 80 k's an hour, one of the
80
two.
for the race.
All right, so there's Xeris on the left of shot. I said he was probably going to come around somewhere around John McDonald and Glenn Miles, so he's going to come out in 12th place, so actually just ahead of John McDonald, so not all that bad. But Hathaway is actually...
done very well for himself after this restart. He's up. He was dead last at this restart. He's gained 5 positions since then, so he's done quite well. I know one of those is from Osrob's penalty, and also Hathaway getting spun, but still, there's several other places he's taken on merit there.
Yeah, a couple of DNFs in there as well, but also he was on the second to last row of the grid as well. So just kept his nose clean, and I think sensibly came in for a splash and dash at the end of it all as well. He decided to let Hathaway go through, and that's the mark of a different type of race driver right there as well. Realising that he's out there just to finish the race and just wants to go and run his own race, and lets the faster car go past without, letting anything bad happen. So being predictable and just sticking to what you want to do, and that's probably the best way, I guess, to attack a circuit that you're not very familiar with, but also maybe that the Ferrari is not quite 100% suited to.
Michael's just wishing he did that in qualifying as well.
I was gonna say. Yeah, no.
Learned his
exactly
lesson,
right.
I think. Then learned his lesson, I think. Look, he was going back to that, it was 6 to 1 half dozen to the other. He was entitled to do it, or he just had a bit of a moment there through turn 12. 6 to 1 half dozen to the other. He was trying to set a flying lap. The car behind him was trying to set a flying lap as well. So there's a bit of same but different, I guess, in that one as well.
Yeah. It's just a bit funny the way it's all worked out, hasn't it? Ooh.
Bolger is back up to the back of Peter Savage, and coming through the first corner, there were millimetres between their bumpers. He just seems he's following exactly through the whole middle twisty part of the track. I think he's going to either make his move down to the final corner, or hopefully try and force Peter Savage to defend into the final corner, so he can have that better run down the main straight into turn 1.
Gents, I'm going to draw your attention to something here. These trio of Beamers, Aaron Thomas, Lime Mitch, and the aforementioned Paul Morris, they've actually been turning some lap times quicker than the pair of leaders ahead. The leaders have been doing low 33s. The guys behind them have been doing low to mid and high 32s. So they're not out of this yet. And Will Devonish is just in back a shot there, just trying to stretch away from Zach Ross. So this isn't over by any stretch of the imagination as we get to half distance mark. There's still a lot to play for here.
I think as Peter and Bolger are battling each other, trying to force each other into mistakes and outmaneuver each other, it's actually allowing the rest of the field to sort of catch up. And yeah, Aaron Thomas especially has really jumped onto the back of this lead battle as we watch Bolger again take a look to the inside of turn 1, and they go side by side yet again. But Bolger doesn't seem to be able to commit enough to get the exit run out of turn 1 there.
Oh, he's going for the inside anyway.
Trying to over and under. Here goes Pete Savage back the other way. He's got that move done, but he's on the wrong side for the next. He's on the right side for the next turn, but the wrong side for turn 4. Aaron Thomas is right there. Bolger senses that he's got to get this move done now because Thomas is coming, and he's literally right on the back bumper of the Mercedes right now. So if Peter doesn't get back through, Aaron Thomas is going to be there to take the position as soon as one of these two make a mistake. And Liam Mitch and Paul Morris are not that far away either.
Bolger did very well there, just quickly. Didn't quite size it up through turn 1, but really had the ascendancy into turn 2, and then maneuvered his car to take the apex away from Savage for the next 2 corners. And now with Thomas on the back of Savage, he's not stopped defending, which has already allowed Bolger to just eke out a car length or 2 and just almost snap the elastic immediately. And already, just looking at sector times, it's half a second quicker in that middle sector for Bolger over Savage. So already you can see the gap's gone. Visually, you can see that the elastic's been snapped, and Peter's looking vulnerable to Thomas as we enter in the last corner.
Here he
Thomas
goes.
is going to go the inside, nice and easy on the brakes, takes the apex away, and it's going to be a drag race down the main straight. But I don't think the AMG has got anything to fight with here. They're going to cross the line basically line astern. 16 thousandths is the difference, but I'm not sure that Savage can wrap around the outside here, and Thomas is going to take second position.
Well done, Aaron Thomas. In actual fact, I think he just sort of eased the throttle a little bit mid-corner as well, just to make sure Savage didn't get back underneath him on the over and under. That's a beautiful move. He set that move up out of turn 12 and had to get the move done. Eventually, it came for him at turn 1. So, job well done, Aaron Thomas. Now it's the turn of Lime Mitch to try and have a go at the back of Pete Savage's Mercedes as well. Will Devonish is slowly starting to catch onto the back of this little train as well, but Bolger has now started to put the foot down. His last lap time, I'm just trying to see what it happens to be, as they got across the line that time, it was actually a 33.9. So he's got to start to kick away now.
That's including the pass though. So since after the first sector, he actually put in a very good middle and last sector, and already this lap he's 2 seconds up on his previous lap time in the first sector. So a lot of time given away in that first sector making that pass. But yet again, Peter Savage, he's not stopped defending. He's gone from defending from Bolger to defending from Thomas to now defending from Mitch and Billy Douglas longer. So he's not had the chance to really settle back into a rhythm here, and it's looking like it's gonna compromise him again. He's not being able to hold any of the positions that he's been challenged for at this stage. So yeah, that AMG is looking like it's in trouble at the moment.
Well, I wonder what's happened for him, because he was the class of the field in the first stint.
Here goes Lime Mitch right through on Peter. Sorry to cut you off there, Bagsy. Yep, Lime Mitch has gone through.
He's trying to cross under, but he just doesn't have the pace coming out the first corner there.
He's getting mugged at the moment.
There, and now Billy Douglas Salonga and Will Devonish are right there ready to have a go as well. And you're right, Michael, he's just not had a chance to stop, but his pace has also just disappeared. It's not just the pressure, because we've seen him deal with the pressure quite well. I think there's just something is not quite right with the balance of that car for this second stint. And it's really, really hurting him, because he's gone from being the clear favourite to win to now fighting for 4th, soon to be 5th place if Billy Douglas Longer gets his way, as he just can drive straight up the inside of him. And there's just no way for Peter to even defend it, and Devonish is going to get him as well. So it's just going from bad to worse for Peter here.
Yeah, something's not gone right at the pit stop sequence. I know that there was a little bit of contact in the pit lane as well that Lewis Wedding's looking at. Devonish and Pete Savage actually got together, I think, as Will was trying to get into his box, cut across the nose of the Mercedes. So I don't know if it's damage related or if they've gone for a different strategy type of thing with the tyre pressures or something, but he's fading badly.
I've just seen Phil Boak has mentioned in the chat, and he's 100% correct. Maybe he didn't change tyres. Phil Boak is 100% correct. He didn't change his tyres, so that is why he's dropping back so much.
Why? Why would you not take tyres in the safety car period like that? Unless no one else around you is taking tyres. But man, it's coming out to be such a blunder as well, because we saw that his pace was already dropping off in that first stint. He was cracking in the first few laps, but it dropped off pretty aggressively. Why would you not take tyres as a safety net? It's just baffling.
Bagsy, you're obviously looking at the wear numbers that you can see through our statistics and confirming Phil Boak's suspicion, I take it.
Yeah, 100%. Will Devonish, Paul Morris, Lime Mitch, all around, about they've used about half a stint's worth of tyres, and yeah, it's quite clear the difference between them. We get given in the data just a number, and it's 0.77 for the fronts for Will Devonish and 0.42 for the fronts for so he's used more than half the tyre compared to Will Devonish, so he used a quarter of his tyres.
And Devonish and Billy Douglas-Long are in a battle for 5th at the moment, 5th and 4th, coming through the middle of the infield now. Devonish actually well worked around the inside of the BMW to take that 4th position. He's playing himself back into this race at the moment after that little indiscretion which involved Mitch Hathaway and Xeris. He's actually managed to navigate his way back towards the front of the field, although Billy Douglas-Long, Paul Morris is trying to fight back, not quite getting it done. So Will Devonish is looking like he's back on the up, but it's Bolger, our championship leader, who has a 3-second lead over Aaron Thomas and Lime Mitch, the 2 MHRT BMWs. And we haven't really seen these 2 cars, the MHRT cars, at the head of the field like this at much, if at all, this season.
No, well, remember the only other time, and he's going to hate me for this, was when we saw Brock Harvey in behind the safety car at Curvelo when we had the issue with the lucky dog, and that's about as far up the field as I think we've actually seen one of those BMWs for some time. So sorry, Brock, I had to put that out there. But no, this is good. He's going to be really happy seeing the MHRT label out there, up there in 2nd and 3rd right now. He'll be super, super stoked. If he's not watching it live, he'll be watching it back a bit later. But this has got huge implications, not only for point standings in the teams, but championship standings as well. Have a look at where everybody's situated right now. So Steve Bolger, championship leader, leading this race. Will Devonish in 4th place. He's the man at 3rd overall by a point to Brenton Foley, who's currently down in 8th. Xeris has managed to get back inside the top 10. He's actually doing some pretty respectable lap times in the 31s in some cases, Xeris right now. Still not out of it. Another safety car or a few mistakes from other drivers, and he'll start to slowly claw his way back up a bit further up the order, but he really needs some help.
Yeah, speaking of Xeris and the penalty, we do have Lewis Wedding, who's just jumped back in here. Do you have some detail to shed on some of the penalties?
Yeah, so obviously the contact between Xeris and
Mitch
Hathaway was deemed as a avoidable incident, so that's why he was handed a drive-through penalty. A little update as well on the contact between Foley and I think it was one of the Lamborghini. I think it was Luke. No, it was Luke Joyner. That was Foley's been given a warning. If it happens again, he'll be given a penalty. And also at turn 1 for the entry, Will is on his last warning. So if he goes over a certain percentage of his car over the pit exit, he'll be given a drive-through penalty.
Ooh. Okay, thank you for that update, Lewis. That's an interesting one that we'll have to keep track of as we approach or past the halfway point of this race now. Don't want to be using those track cuts too early on. So, if Will gets engaged in a battle later on, we could see a few problems for him.
Here goes Will, having a look down the inside of Lion Mitch. A little bit of hip and shoulder. This is the spot where Lewis Wedding just said Foley was given the warning for, just off of turn 11 there, where he did a little bit of a hip and shoulder number. I think it was on one of the. I think it was Luke Joyner, and we did mention a bit earlier. We did see some drivers taking liberties with the pit lane exit and using that for an extra bit of turn. It's similar vein to what you have seen some drivers do at the Adelaide Street Circuit for turn 1, really moving their car over as far to the left to the right as they possibly can to get into turn 1. Same with the run into turn 9, just like what Lime Mitch did there. And then you see behind that Will was very, very, cautious and behaved himself there. So different drivers are obviously being picked up for this. As Will has a bit of a look to go down the inside at turn number 2, but there's no room there. How did he manage to pull that car up? That was a very, very late move.
Some very mature and smart driver from Lion Mitch. He's just placing that car. He's not letting the fact that Devonish was storming up towards the inside there phase him. He just took his line and said, I'm driving this way through the corner. If you run into me, it's 100% going to be on you. I might lose a position or two, but you're going to lose out a lot more, and I'll probably still end up to the better.
Yeah. Having
He's
to take
be defensive now, because Devonish is looking very tantalizingly at the rear of that BMW. it's almost as if Devonish has got the bit between his teeth. We've seen these big recovery drives from him before, and he always seems to get a bit of the fire under the belly
Here
when
he
he
goes.
does that. And he's
he's
down the inside.
Overcommitted it though. Just couldn't pull it up. Overcommitted it, and Line Mitch says thank you very much, and the over and under pays off again.
Line Mitch just saying, go ahead, go down the inside 20 kilometers an hour fast. Let's see how far that goes for you. Oh look, I'll wave at you from over here on the apex. Hi, apex is here. I'm gonna go back past you.
This is some supreme driving from Lion Mitch. I mean, he's a front runner in Super 2, so if you're looking for him, you'll actually see him at the Supercars race on Thursday night or here on Outworld Broadcasting as well. Also on the Loose 89 channel on Friday for Super 2. He's doing some great things aboard that Monster Energy Mustang on Thursday nights and his HRT Commodore on Friday nights for Super 2. So some really mature driving, as Bagsy put it, putting his car in all the right places, defending at all the right moments. There's a number of drivers that are starting to really get their defensive skills up. I mean, a number of people have sort of said that I'm one of the best defenders in AMS Oz, but there's a few guys that are starting to challenge that moniker on me. Lion Mitch is one of them. Wayne Spencer at the last round at Donington was another. A few drivers have really started to up their defensive game in a big way.
And it's making the racing much more interesting as well, because you're not just seeing these battles of these leaders just blitz everyone as they come through the field. They're actually having to work hard to pass some of the drivers that are maybe a bit slower on outright pace. But yes, certainly up there in racecraft, as Devonish is going to try that diving move again. And Lion Mitch slams the door on the Lamborghini. He's not getting through on the apex of turn 11 at all. So Mitch is doing a very good job of just holding that BMW right where Devonish doesn't want it to be, and he's holding on to that third position as we approach the second round of pit stops, only maybe a lap or two away.
Here we go, Devonish this time. Got it done. Tried for the block pass over and under again.
Well done.
I mean, Devonish just bumped into the side of Lion Mitch there and tried to force him out. He's trying to bully Lion Mitch into giving up the position, and Lion Mitch is having none of it. Devonish is making some.
This is awkward. This is awkward.
We've got Mitch Hathaway as pit and has come out right in front of this battle. Devonish all over the place behind him. Oh, is he going to be able to use the traffic as a pick?
Yeah, he
did.
Devonish
with some very good use of traffic there on the traffic side as well.
Yeah,
and the slot gap.
No, Mitch has managed to stay around the outside, and he takes
big moment for Hathaway. Hathaway through the gravel trap behind them as well, so that's a localised jelly. He's managed to get away with it without hitting anybody, which is, I thought that was going to be an Alex Premat moment on somebody for a moment if he kept going on. But Will Devonish was very clever there on the run to turn number 2. Mitch realised that he'd made his one defensive move and he couldn't make another one, so that's why Will stuck it up the inside there. But hats off, top level defending to Lion Mitch. Will is going to be absolutely pulling his hair out in that Lamborghini right now. He's going to have to maybe think about. He's trying for the third time at this corner, and he's made some contact.
That's not worked.
And that's not worked. And he's facing the wrong way now as well. So that's an example of trying to force the issue in a situation where you shouldn't be forcing the issue. I was about to say he probably needed to think a little bit longer term and think strategy and think about coming in, maybe trying to affect an undercut and get out and maybe pass him that way, but it hasn't come off. He definitely was the faster car. He probably could have waited for Lion Mitch actually to come in and then just done an extra lap and done the overcut as well. So that's now actually worked out a lot worse for Will Devonish than he was hoping for. In actual fact, Brenton Foley,
directly behind him now is his main championship rival currently, Brenton Foley. Obviously, his biggest championship rival was at the front of the field is Steve Bolger, who's now got a 5-second lead over Aaron Thomas. Yeah, Devonish now has Foley right behind him, and there's only a point between them, so currently he's not going to gain too much. As we see, the first person to blink, Luke Joyner, has come into the pits to see if he can make it to the end from here. It's going to be very close with 33 minutes left plus 1 lap. So Luke Joyner, first to blink, and I believe I can see Steve Burko in the background coming into pit as well.
Yeah,
Yes,
Mitch Hathaway
indeed.
Mitch Hathaway had come in about a lap and a half ago as well, so he's obviously gone the gamble and decided to stop early. I'm going to come back to this tyre argument. If the tyre wear is as bad as Greg Turra has made it out to be after a single stint, maybe Hathaway came in and took those tyres because he was in desperate need of them. Maybe people are going to have to stop again toward the end of this race. Maybe they're not going to have a choice.
Well, maybe we were amazed that Hathaway jumped so many people in the pits. Remember, he popped out in 3rd position ahead of Xeris and a few others that we were surprised about. Maybe he did that because he didn't take tyres. Maybe he was actually struggling.
Yeah, maybe he's went into the same boat as Pete Savage, who's coming under fire now from Will Devonish.
Hathaway kicked up the pits though quite well, so I don't know
Savage
if that
in.
was
Savage in.
as Peter has dived into the pits.
I was about to say, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see Savage into the pits this lap around to deal with those tyres going off. So that kind of releases Devonish to have another go at the BMW train. Luke Joyner's actually slotted out between 1st and 2nd of the field, so a bit of traffic for the rest of the field to deal with. And now Foley and Ross are engaged in battle for 6th, and that's just behind Devonish. And so we're going to see a bit of a mixed bag as everyone kind of plays their strategy card to get to the last section of this race.
How far can they go will be the question. Who can actually manage to get their tyres a bit further than everybody else, and maybe get their fuel a bit further than everybody else, and make that shorter stop work for them? It's going to be touch and go, but we did say Brenton Foley has the best fuel mileage of a number of drivers, and that's why he does drive the Viper. But how far can he go? What's the limiting factor? Tyres the limiting factor, or fuel the limiting factor in this stop?
Well, remember, Foley took that additional stop after everyone in that safety car period, so he came in and topped off again. So it's very realistic to believe that Foley might even go as close as 20 minutes or even further left in the race before he makes his pit stop.
Look and see where the race leader is at the moment. He's gone through again. And the two BMWs of Thomas and Mitch have gone through as well. Now, a number of drivers are starting to put some headlights on, I'm noticing, in back of shot as well. Or maybe that's just me.
Luke Joyner, who's a lap down.
Yeah, they are. They're flashing him as a lap down. So that's good to see. They all go through. That's the Bentley of Brendan Ross coming in for his final stop, pretty much on the half-hour mark. So depending on how this plays out with when the last lap falls due, might be able to get home from here if he can fuel save it.
I think everyone should, at this point, you should be able to make it home from here, full fuel.
Just want to bring us to the battle for 4th and 5th. Will Devonish and Billy Dougal-Salonga, aka Paul Morris, they've just come out, we just had Cracker come out immediately ahead of them. So that's really compressed that battle. So at the moment, it is Billy Dougal-Salonga who has the lead in that battle. Cracker is the cork in the bottle and has gone to the inside and released
that's cheeky.
Billy Dougal-Salonga.
That's very cheeky from Devonish.
Yeah.
Very well done. Very alert to the fact. Had a little bit of hip and shoulder there as well, which I'm not sure if that'll be looked upon with any disdain there, but I'm sure Paul Morris would have been looking at that going, you want to do that to me? I might return the favour in a minute. He was a bit renowned for that at his day, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, keep in mind, Billy Dougal-Salonga, Paul Morris has been using that move to great effect throughout the race on multiple occasions. So he's had a bit of a taste of his own medicine in that respect.
All right, race leaders are starting to come around. Aaron Thomas has decided to come in, and the race leader, Steve Bolger, keeps going. MHRT, both cars are in the lane. So Cracker wide at the off the corner. Xeris coming in as well. Probably not a bad idea to get out of some of the traffic. Although it's a bit of a disaster for MHRT because they're going to have to share the pit boom. So who's going to get right away here? I'm just watching on the other monitor to see if they've
both got their own boom,
okay,
so
that's good.
Worked out well.
Actually, I think there's 3 cars in that team because Brock Harvey's got the other one. So that's worked out all right for those guys. So only the 3 men in the lane for the moment. That leaves Devonish in second, and now Steve Bolger well and short out in front. I reckon he might be coming in this lap.
I was about to say that, yeah. Now that's kind of released Devonish and has given him only 1 car in between himself and the race leader, but albeit at 10 or 11 seconds rather. So it's not quite done for Devonish yet. He's not out of it, but he's certainly not necessarily in it either. Bolger definitely has the control of the field, and it'll be about trying to find a slot for him to kind of drop out into. As I'm just keeping an eye on the pit lane at the moment.
Yep, so I'm watching them as well, and all the cars that are in the pit lane have gotten themselves away. So Xeris has made a little bit of ground, not much.
Xeris is going to end up behind Peter.
Is that what we saw beforehand? Yes, it was, because Xeris had taken that drive-through, of course. He's right next to Brendan Ross.
Yes, the race leader has gone in. and Will Devenish goes around again. Yeah, but just
Oh,
keeping
it looks like we've lost Billy Dougal Salonga. It looks like Billy Dougal Salonga is ground to a halt. He might be out of fuel here on the entry to the final corner.
Where is
This
he at
could
the
bring out
moment?
a safety car.
Yeah, so where is he at the moment? And has he decided to exit the game here, or is what's going on? I can't find. He's actually looks like no, there he is. Yeah, that's fuel. That has got to be fuel. So that's in a really awkward position. I'm wondering if he's hoping someone's going to give him a push there, but he's not going anywhere in any great hurry, and he's just completely stranded there. So it's a low.
He's going to cause a safety car if he stays there.
Yeah, it's a localised yellow in the final sector. Lewis Wedding might have to be onto that very, very quickly because his car he's off the racing line. But if a car decides to try and make a pass blind over the top of the hill, that's going to be a huge problem. I don't know if he's either had an issue with the game or it looks to me like it's fuel. It doesn't look like there's any fire under that engine whatsoever.
No engine noise whatsoever on board either.
Well, he's not going to be able to coast it into the pits from there. So.
And just back to the head of the field, Bolger's out of the pits. Foley's out of the pits in second place. He's jumped all of the BMWs to slot out. Just
third.
Bolger.
He's a net third at the moment. That's a huge strategy call for Foley. Has he not taken tyres on that stop?
I think it's the fuel. I think it's the fuel.
He's taken tyres. I think it was that the fuel efficiency we've spoken about so often, plus the fact that he was one of the people who came in on lap 18, the last lap of that safety car.
That's a huge jump.
Laps,
that's
gained him. That's a huge amount of time. That is absolutely. And
I know.
in the pits
I can see what's going on here. Back of shot. I've just noticed that Mitch Hathaway is actually giving Paul Morris a bit of a push. So those two are obviously teammates. So let's go and have a bit of a look at the replay on this. This is a moment that we don't normally see this. So let's actually pull this up on the replay. So here he is. And then I think Mitch Hathaway was also a lap down. Here he comes, and that's a bit aggressive. But I was about to say, isn't that nice? But yeah, that was a bit aggressive. And it's inconvenienced a couple of drivers having to go the long way around. So he's going to push him into the pit lane, and that's normally something we.
Well, his engine's restarted, so it looks like Mitch Hathaway has become Billy Dougal Salonga's guardian angel, and. Unfortunately, he's going to lose the excellent position he had, but
race leader is in. So race leader's in. Bolger's going to go through. Here comes Foley on the right-hand side of shot. This is going to be awfully close here, gentlemen. Foley might leapfrog Devenish, and he's going to do it.
Wow. And might even Thomas might even step
it's going to be awkward, though. Thomas is going to have to commit. No, Devenish just gets out. What a strategy.
He's going to be slow. He's going to be compromised into turn one, though. Can Thomas capitalize? Not quite. Okay, so this really settles out the race now for the last stanza. We've got 24 and a half minutes. And it looks like Bolger still maintained his lead, but it's now Foley in second place after a shorter pit stop. Devenish in third, Thomas fourth, Liam Mitch and Peter Savage in a battle for fifth. And then Xeris has jumped Brendan Ross and Zach Ross to end up in seventh at the minute. But we could be in for a grandstand finish here between some of the championship contenders for this for the final podium positions.
Xeris has gained an awful amount of time too. At one stage, he was over 20 seconds off the race lead, having served the drive-through. He's gotten that back to about 15 and a half seconds, and he's still got time to make up a couple of spots. At the moment in the order, as you said, he was in 7th place. He's just ahead of Brendan Ross. The next target is actually Pete Savage and Liam Mitch, who are locked in a furious combat. Here they are, down at turn 11. And Xeris is just going to start to emerge in back of shot any second now as they go through turn 12. So there they are. And there's Xeris.
Yeah, you can't count Peter Savage out for the podium either. He is only 3 seconds off the podium at this point because Will Devenish is the last person on the podium at the moment. And it's only Liam Mitch and Aaron Toss with them. And Peter has been revitalised by those new tyres. And the fact that he has them now, it didn't quite pay off trying to... I don't know why they tried to single tyre or 2 tyre stint this race because at the safety car he would have come out first anyway, even with the tyres. But he's got every chance at a podium here as well.
But the problem is he's got to make his way through Liam Mitch. We saw how difficult it is to pass that big BMW, especially with Liam Mitch behind the wheel. Devenish demonstrated for us earlier how difficult it was and ended up in a bit of a tangle here. So it's going to be difficult for Peter. And as I say that, he's got his nose on the inside of turn 4, or turn 5 rather. Not really a passing opportunity there. So while Peter could be on, as he gets a bit of a slide on through turn 6, manages to hold it just. So while he might have the outright pace, he's still got to catching is one thing, but passing is quite a different story altogether. And he's got to pass Line Mitch to get there.
Yeah, we did see the reason he got his nose up the side in turn 4 there was because Line Mitch had a bit of a moment. So it's one of those things where is Peter going to be able to put more pressure or more effective pressure compared to what Will Devenish did? Will Devenish was just trying lots of big old dives and big flashy moves to try and sort of scare Line Mitch off the racing line like a full-neck lizard and just be like, flaring out. Whereas I think Peter Savage might be taking a bit more of a cerebral approach and just trying to push and slowly pressure Line Mitch into a mistake.
So 21 and a half minutes to go. Coming out of the pits there is John McDonald, just ahead of Brenton Foley. So plenty of room there. Foley puts the lights on and John McDonald obliges and will let second place man Foley and third place Devenish through. That's one of the battles we're going to be really interested to watch between now and the end of the race, is this battle over second and third. Not sure if they'll catch Steve Bolger. Just having a look at the times that Bolger's been doing. He's sort of been doing times in around the 32s. Foley's best last one was the 33 according to live races, but that's a lap behind.
It's a 32.5. In fact, both of them are off by 1,000. 32.525, 32.526. Will Devenish, though, a 31.7 on that last lap around.
McDonald continues to let the traffic through in the background, so all the race, the cars are on the lead lap going through without any trouble.
And just quickly as well, Will Devenish, this sector, Purple's first sector.
Here's the dive, and Foley leaves him the room at turn 11. And Devenish should hold that. Foley's going to fight it. He's going to argue it. And now he decides to do a bit of cone mowing and let Devenish through at turn number 12. Now he's just got to try and stick with him and see if he can either try another pass.
Yeah,
he's going to have another go. No, he hasn't given it up. He's found a turn of pace, Foley. He's just sort of coaxed Devenish into going wide there. And that's not over. So maybe Foley just needs to hang on to the back of Will for a little bit here. See if Will can drag him up to Bolger. But they've lost nearly a full second on that lap alone just from battling. Oh, that's a little bit naughty. Foley took a lot of pit lane exit there on the run through to turn 1. This battle for 5th and 6th, Line Mitch and Pete Savage again continuing on. There's a little bit of contact there as well, I think, just in the braking zone on the run to 2.
I think Line Mitch is using the maximum amount of rope that he should be getting from the administrators there, moving the car over to the middle of the track to block Peter Savage. He's certainly allowed to do that. That's one defensive move, sure, but it is on the verge of blocking. It's now brought Xeris into that battle as well. Yep. So you've got a BMW by 2 ahead of 2 AMGs here, and it could... I can see this turning ugly as Line Mitch is on the
now that's really defensive. Yeah, now we can't make another defensive move now because he committed hard to defend onto the kink as they came into turn 10. Sorry, so turn 10, turn 9. This is turn 10. Now we're on to 11 and 12.
Before this lap, because Xeris has just got to the back of this battle, and he has been gaining time on everyone, not just these guys in front, but also Steve Bolger, hand over fist. It was 15 seconds, got down to 12 seconds at one point. He's the fastest man on track by almost a second.
Yeah, now he's caught up to this, and now he's caught up to this battle, which is on for Young and Old at the front. These two are going to trip over each other if they're not careful here. And as I say, there's a little bit of contact. Xeris is just going to try and get a bit of run now. There's a bit of flashing of the lights there from Pete Savage. He's a bit upset with what's going on. And look, I don't blame him.
So.
I don't blame him either. Is he going to commit hard to turn 1 here, or is he going to just hold on here? Just has to hold. He's got 2 mines on right now. One's to get the pass done, but 2, he's got to defend from Xeris as well. And he sends it. He sends it at turn number 2. He's got some ground on the inside here. Does he escort him wide? No, he leaves him enough room, and just enough. And I'm not sure if Mitch is going to try and fight this one back, but Savage goes a long way, goes around the outside, gets the job done, pass made.
It was only a matter of time, really. Peter Savage definitely had the pace. Liam Mitch, he's looking a bit more ailing than he was in that middle stint. He's looking vulnerable. Doesn't look like he's got quite as much pace as he did in the middle stint. He's going to be under immediate pressure from Xeris and then Brendan Ross as well as this late part of the race continues. Wide at the apex there as well. So it's all gone a bit pear-shaped for Liam Mitch now, beginning to drop down the order.
Yeah, I'm seeing Lewis
Like
Wedding.
the colour of his car.
I'm seeing Lewis Wedding jumping up and down the chat channels as well in the Discord. He would have been going back and forth to some of the drivers, finding out what's going on and if they're upset with anything. And I'm sure he's in the same one as where Liam Mitch is at the minute. So he's probably said to him, "Listen, you're going to have to just be a bit more tactful with your defending. You're on the verge of blocking."
I think all his defending has been firm but fair. It's Wedding sets the fastest lap of the race, 1:31.3. So Wedding has not given up on the win yet.
Devonish there, not Wedding. Wedding's in the chat channel. Yeah, but no, you're absolutely right. Will hasn't given up hope. He's 7 seconds behind Bolger, as Savage has had a moment off of turn number 1. Brendan Ross is not out of this battle for the 6th, 7th, and 8th place as well. He's just hanging on to Xeris' coattails here, as they all line up to take shots at Liam Mitch's BMW. I think you're right, Basie. Look, to a degree, I think the defending was firm but fair. Like driving down the middle of the road, holding your line, not moving either side, that's firm but fair. You've committed early to the move, that's fine. One defensive move, that's fair as well. I guess there's probably... Pete Savage obviously felt he was a little bit aggrieved by something at the final sector a couple of laps ago, which looked a little bit strange, but for the most part, he has been defending pretty fair. Although he's gone wide there, Xeris is going to be up the inside in the heartbeat, and he is.
And he's through straight away. But the problem is the next corner is a right-hander, and Liam Mitch has got the inside, takes the inside line there, and he's maintained that position just. Now can he hold it for the next sequence
He'll have
of
to
corners?
roll out.
Probably for this one.
He'll have to roll out.
Xeris is a very...
Oh!
That being said, I was about to say Xeris had to roll out. He rolled out, but got the turn-in point all wrong, and that let Brendan Ross through in a flash.
That's the symptom of almost getting too close to the car in front. He tried to
and
leave
look at
that
this.
space.
Rossi's had a pretty good run off the final corner as well, so he actually might out-drag the BMW to turn 1 here. He's going to get it done.
2-for-1 special.
Yeah, he's going to get it done, I think. He's going to commit hard to it. That's a really good run for Rossi. He actually doesn't quite get it done at 2. So at 1. Turn 2's the next one where he's sort of got to make it stick. Liam Mitch is going to hang tough on the outside, though. Oh, and that's an I think that's a free kick for Lime. He's let Liam Mitch off the hook here. Lime's going to have the inside for 4, which is what he needs. Oh,
that's going to try the over-under here. Not quite. In fact, he runs a little wide, which might open the door for Xeris. Almost.
Liam Mitch has been so clever in this first sector. Every time he's let people take the inside. He's like, go ahead, compromise your line through the first corner. Take the inside in the second corner. I'm just going to drive around the outside, have the better line, and then take the inside for the next set of corners. And there won't be anything you can do about it. And no one has had it figured out yet.
Xeris standing inside.
Xeris takes Ross back.
Yeah, mistake from Brendan Ross down there at turn 7. And through goes Xeris. Now up to turn 11. And now it'll be the round 2 between Xeris and Liam Mitch, I'd imagine in about a minute's time, when they get close to each other's bumpers again. Go back up towards the head of the field. Brenton Foley's just started to lose a little bit of ground to Aaron Thomas in this battle over 3rd place now. Savage not far out of this either. Have a look at the respective times. So Foley crosses the line 32.6, Thomas 32 flat, Peter 31.8.
Oh,
that's going to close up in the next lap or 2 very, very quickly. Pinch a break from Aaron Thomas though, going into 1.
I wouldn't be too worried about the pinch of the brake. I'd be more worried if I was in Foley's car. We know that Foley likes a pretty loose car. He likes to get a bit of oversteer and a bit of power down wheel spin. The problem is he's doing that in all the wrong spots at the minute. He's doing it in the very, very entry of the slow corners, and it's dragging him out. I saw him last lap around in turn 11, that right-hander on the inside of the circuit, really out sideways, and that's really compromised his last few laps, and that's brought Aaron Thomas onto his wheel almost. So yeah, we're going to have a 3-way fight for the podium between Thomas, Savage, and Brendan Foley as we approach 13 minutes left to go in this race.
Zirus will probably be spitting chips at the minute that he hasn't been able to clear Line Mitch and get onto the back of this battle, because this is he had some pace, and I reckon if he had been able to clear Line Mitch about 5 minutes ago, he'd be right with these guys. What do you reckon, Bagsy?
Oh yeah, he would have been up on the back of Peter and potentially passed already at this point, because he's just Lime Mitch has been the masterclass defender today, and yeah, there may have been one or two that have been close to over the line, but I think for the most part, you can say that every single defensive move he's made has been, yeah, that's all good. You can say that's taking the racing line, or that is when you expect to be taking the apex.
Oh, Thomas White, sorry Bagsy, Thomas White at the final corner, he went right across the road to defend, and Pete Savage chased him, but this is going to be a hold for Aaron Thomas into turn number 1, but he had to go super defensive really early off of 14. He knew he was compromised. Savage is going to have a little bit of a look.
Now.
Yeah, Savage is going to have a little bit of a sneaky look. He's not quite close enough to put his nose alongside the BMW here, but he's giving a bit of Morse code right now. And, has a dive! Oh, gets away with it. And they run side by side through 5.
He's going to make that move.
Yeah, he's going to get it done. So they run side by side through turn 5 and now up to 6. And yeah, he's now prevailed in that battle. So unfortunately for Aaron Thomas, off the podium. And
we were just moments ago talking about him possibly challenging Foley.
Yeah, well, Foley had a bit of an issue and come right back to him, but maybe just the tyres on that BMW just starting to fade a little bit, maybe having used up a little bit too much to defend.
Has just made a beautiful move on Line Mitch and has got it done as well.
Finally, he makes the pass stick. Can he hold it through into turn 11? Yes, he can. Let's go back and have a bit of a look at how he got that job done. So, off of turn 5 and through 6. Do you just get better drive off? You've got a pretty decent drive off of turn 6. Line Mitch didn't take the defensive line here and committed very early to the brakes. Just skated it on the rears just a little bit and gave Line Mitch a bit of room on the outside. That's actually a very nice pass.
He's not got it fully done yet, because Line Mitch is right up behind him in his slipstream, absolutely locked in going to turn 1, and has the inside line. Zirus gives him it to affect Line Mitch's turn in, but Line Mitch is actually, he's going to take the inside now into the second turn.
That's a very good fight back from Line Mitch too. He's synonymous for going very hard under brakes in Super 2 as well, and manages to pull it up on just about every occasion. Reminiscent of some stuff that we've seen a few drivers do over the course of the last few weeks as well, getting their braking properly sorted in some of these hard braking zones. Zirus had no choice there but to let him go. Although Zirus decides to send it up the inside at 6, and this will allow them to run... I was about to say, allow them to run side by side through the kink, but he had a little moment off the exit of 6, and that's just giving an extra car length or two behind.
He did it last lap, and he goes again down the inside. This time, Line Mitch has a bit more on him, but yeah, it looks like Zirus they've got two different parts of the track where they both have the advantage, it seems, and Zirus has finally been able to twice in a row put his advantage down here in the second sector, but Line Mitch maybe just has a little more straight line speed, and because he's able to hold on to Zirus through this final sector, he's able to have a go into the first sector, into the first corner rather.
Sorry to interrupt, guys, but while we've been talking about that battle for 6th and 7th, we've actually had a change for 3rd. Peter Savage,
there it is.
On the exit of turn 10, made the dive into turn 11. They ran side by side, Foley and Savage, into turn 12, and Savage took the ascendancy and now has 3rd position. So that battle for 3rd has gone the way of Peter Savage in the entire loose sim sport car, and he's going to hold that position, looks like, as Foley tries for a dive into turn 2 but can't quite get it done. Now this is important. This is important for the championship, because with Devonish in 2nd, this is giving Devonish a bit more of a gap in points over Foley, who's his immediate championship rival for that 2nd place in the championship. So that'll be a 5-point swing, I think, just doing the quick maths in my head, which would put Devonish 4 points ahead of Foley in the championship.
Correct.
Foley still has Aaron Thomas behind him, who could potentially take that spot back.
Yeah, and Zirus has finally managed to make the move stick on Line Mitch and is starting to pull away a little bit now as well. So he's only got 9 minutes plus 1, or 9 and a bit minutes plus a lap to go, and he'll then hopefully can join the back of this battle if they start to fade. What lap times have they been doing last time around here, guys? Obviously the live races is a little bit behind time, How
Who
is
were we talking about? Sorry.
so catching these guys? So Foley, Pete Savage, and Aaron Thomas compared to Xeris. How are they tracking at the moment?
So Xeris last lap around was a 33.4. Remember, he was tied up with Lion Mitch for a lot of that. Peter Savage a 32.7. Brenton Foley a 33.8 last lap around.
All right, let's get an
And
indication
Thomas,
as they cross the line this time around. So
yeah.
Savage, as he gets to the line, is a 31.9. Foley 32.6. Aaron Thomas 32 flat. Xeris 31.8.
So he's still coming, still coming at this battle, but he's only got 7.5 minutes to do so. And Thomas is looking like he might try for a move on Foley. Down the inside into turn 2. Foley gives him a little bit of room, a little too much room it looks like. And Thomas is going to get the drive out of that corner and close the door. And it's going to be Aaron Thomas into 4th place.
Nice move by Aaron Thomas. He sort of just, again, coaxed Foley into saying, I want to have a go at you here and I want to go down the inside. But it's sort of like a half-committed move, waited for Foley to make the mistake and then just walked through pretty much an open door. Now, is this going to be a hold for Aaron Thomas through this sector or section of the course?
And can Aaron Thomas get up to Peter in the next few laps and the final few laps and make up the podium position? Because we saw he was on the podium before and holding it quite well. So just a mistake from Peter, and Aaron Thomas is right behind him as Lewis Wedding joins us back again in the box.
Lewis, anything to report at this juncture, or is everything sort of settled down?
There's been a warning for Aaron Thomas for moving under braking at turn 2. And Lion Mitch has also had a warning for going over one too many times at turn 1. Also have a little bit of an update in the race as well. Not to give things away, but I'm going to do it anyway. But Foley may be a lap short of fuel. He's a little bit worried.
Ooh, that would be a big development. Just quickly, Lewis, on your substitute member for Team Antara, Lou Simsport, Peter Savage, 3rd place at the moment. How have you rated his performance so far?
He's been superb. Only thing that's frustrating at the moment is that the game, he did want to change tyres at the pit stop, but unfortunately it changed it back for him. So that middle stint while he was going backwards and didn't have tyres, it didn't change for him in the first pit stop when he planned to. So if he hadn't had that, it would have been a really cracking race between himself, Bolger and Devonish.
That's a shame. We were puzzled by that, certainly. So that kind of makes a bit more sense then.
That's reminiscent of what happened to Josh Bennett, Spa-Francorchamps last year as well, when he came in and the game tried to change tyres and the game wouldn't let him. So it's not the first time we've heard of that happening.
Yeah, certainly frustrating, but he's put in a really good shift. So bit of a shame, but still to be in 3rd place, I'm really happy.
I would be too. Race leader Steve Bolger has had it pretty easy since the 2nd round of stops. He's clear of Will Devonish by a tune of about 5 seconds. 5 minutes to go. And just doing the rough math here, gentlemen, we're probably going to get another 5 laps.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
there you
go. That's mental math for you. Although that being said, Will's close. Sorry to cut you off there, Michael. This gap that Will has been eating into is now down to 4.5 seconds. It was at one stage 7.9 about 15 or so minutes ago. What's the times that Will's been doing to try and catch Steve Bolger at the moment?
Last lap 31.5 compared to Bolger's 32.4, so 9/10 of a second in the last lap alone. Also, just quickly on Foley's, if he's a lap short on fuel and needs to do a splash and dash, he'll probably come out around about Zach Ross. Zach Ross is 20 seconds behind him in 9th place, so he could be ahead of him, could be behind him, depends on how long he actually fills up for.
And that would be a big loss for Foley there if that's the case. Just a quick note on Devonish's lap times. Since we saw him set the fastest lap of the race, remember 31.351 just out of the pit sequence, he's only had 1 lap since then that has been in the 32s, the 32 flat at that, sorry, a 32.1. Since then it's been a 31.7, 31.5, 31.6, 31.8, 31.6, 31.8. You know, a very consistent grouping of laps there, whereas Bolger, he's been not bad, but certainly a bit more inconsistent. There's a few more 32s, a lot of high 31s in there, and it's a much wider variance. So as we approach 3 minutes left in this race, 31.7 for Bolger versus a 31.6 for Devonish. It's certainly not done, but I think Bolger has the luxury of managing this gap now. As long as he doesn't make any, large mistakes, or if the tires don't fall off a cliff, Bolger should have enough of a buffer to just not coast into the finish, but ease into the finish without too much of an issue.
Something that may come up soon, though, is the fact that the battle for 12th, 13th, and 14th between Cracker, Turmo, and Burko is not too far up the road.
Yep, there they are, just in front of Shot.
So that could end up playing a bit of a role. Depending, there's only 2.5 minutes left, so you think probably not, but the pace is a fair bit different. We're just having a look at their pace is in the 1 minute 35, so late 34s, 35. So there's almost 3, sometimes 4 seconds between them. So there's every chance on the last lap that there could be a bit of Bolger trying to get through traffic. Really, he should just back off a little bit at that point and just coast it to the end.
Yeah, here we go.
All these guys.
Here's this battle on screen that you're talking about, Bagsy. This battle between the Viper of Cracker, Turmo in the Aston Martin, and Steve Bolger in the Lexus. And Burko, and they've been going at this for quite some time as well. I think I've been watching on the other side of the screen for about 3 or 4 laps now, and they've all been staying well and truly out of each other's way as trying to make the pass as well. So good, fair racing between all of them. And Bolger's just starting to emerge. There he is in back of Shot. So he's crossed the line, and he's going to get, there'll be this lap and 2 more afterwards. So he's currently circulating on lap 55.
Will Devonish gained 1.3 seconds on the last lap.
And that was due in part to a purple final sector as well. So Devonish is certainly putting the pressure on here. The gap is now only 3 seconds for the lead of the race with 2...
Oh, there's a spin. Sorry, I've just caught a... Sorry, just cycling through the field. I've just caught a spin for Ozrob. That looks like it's down at turn number 8. It looks like he might have done that all by himself, I think. Let's go and have a quick sticky beak at the replay while we're looking at that.
And just quickly as well, Aaron Thomas has made a mistake somewhere because he's now engaged in a very difficult battle between himself, Brenton Foley, and Xeris for 4th. Just a second ago, I was looking at him at the back of Peter Savage, but he's in a big battle now.
Yeah, Ozrob's spin was all of his own doing, and he's actually pulling over to let the race leaders through, which is good to see. So, already being a lap down. And he's had another spin as well there, so he maybe has some sort of damage there. But Bolger is, he's right on the hammer of this group now.
And 26 is right on the hammer of him.
Yeah.
1.5 seconds.
All right, here we go. So this is what's happening here. There's going to be this lap. It will go zeros. We'll get 2 more laps. So the race leader commences lap 56. We're going to get 57 laps. It will be the duration. Oh, he's going to have to really fight his way hard through this traffic. I'm sort of struggling to decide what I want to do. Burko decides to get out of the way. Good driving. Turmo's making a move on Cracker.
Cracker having a battle in front. Cracker has a bit of a slide in front. This is going to be... Well, Bolger's been affected, but is Devonish going to be affected as well? That's the big thing. Cracker's not getting out the way of Bolger. This has cost him time, lots of time, and Cracker's still not focusing on what's behind him. He's looking to battle in front.
Needs the headlights on. He needs to put the headlights on. The race leader's allowed to do that. Cracker decides to go wide, and no, actually, that's too wide. That's
Cracker decided to go wide there, if that was Cracker just losing. But look at the time that is. That means that Devonish was not held up by him at all. Now it's only 7 tenths of a second.
Let's go back and have a look at this other battle you were talking about. Xeris has actually managed to slip through both Aaron Thomas and Brenton Foley. He's coming for the splash and dash.
He came into the pit last lap around. That's Foley done and dusted. He's out in 9th, as Bagsy so eloquently predicted earlier on.
Big swing in the championship standings then.
Right out the way. So now it is just Bolger versus Devonish with 1 lap and 2 corners to go.
All right, straight up dogfight for the final lap. White flag will be in the air this time around. Oh, that was so close to Devonish going rear end first into the back of the number 87. White flag. John Mcdonald gets out the way. This is a straight up dogfight in a sprint finish after 90 minutes. Bolger takes a defensive approach to 1. No room through for Devonish this time. Going to take a defensive approach again. He leaves enough room on the outside for Devonish, saying if you want to have a go, you're going to have to do it the long way.
Devonish very smart, just eases off a little bit there, gives himself a little bit of room, so that way if Bolger really checks up, he's not going to get caught absolutely in the wheel tracks of that Lamborghini. Both of them very squirrely through turn 4. Bolger leaves the half door open for Devonish into turn 5 there, but not quite through. The gap is less than 0.2 of a second as they round through turn 6 into the second sector.
Bagsy, a Bolger's tyre's gone here.
Sorry, go on.
A Bolger's tyre's gone here. He looks like he's in trouble.
I don't think so. They're both at similar wear levels. They've both been doing similar things. I think Devonish has just got into it, or maybe Bolger's got into his own head here at the end of the race, but Devonish is just lurking like a shark. I wonder if the pressure of lap after lap, Devonish just putting in those 131s has got to Bolger. But now that Devonish has arrived, is he going to be able to get past? There's precious few corners left. It's going to be an all or nothing dive into the final corner if Devonish wants to do this.
Here
and
we
he's
go.
got the proximity to do so. Bolger, he's going to stick to the inside here. Devonish is going to have to go the long way around. They both dive in very, very deep.
Oh,
Devonish is so deep. He almost goes off the circuit. In fact, he does spin it onto the infield.
Race win to
Bolger's
Steve
gonna take the
Bolger.
win.
Bolger gets the win. Smart driving from Steve Bolger. Took the defensive approach and said to Will, you've got to do it. You want to go around the outside, and he couldn't make it stick. So Devonish second in the end. Great drive by this man, Pete Savage, for third place. He'd be delighted with that. Xeris, what a recovery drive after that drive-through penalty. Fourth at the flag, 19.3 seconds down the race leader. Brock Harvey's going to be pretty pleased. A fifth place for Aaron Thomas and a sixth place for Lime Mitch. That's probably the best results we've seen for the Matt Harvey Repair and Tune guys over the course of their time in GT3. Good result from Brendan Ross too. Was scheduled to start 8th. Started from the pit lane, got all the way up to 7th.
Yeah, that's very good from Brendan Ross.
Brilliant drive.
From a pit lane start to 7th.
Zach Ross will get across the line for 8th. That's another one of the guest Mercedes cars getting home. Brenton Foley, that splash and dash has yielded him 9th. And the last man inside the top 10 is going to be the Lamborghini of Luke Joyner. He's almost a full, I think he's actually almost a full lap behind the race leader. Probably not that far ahead of the leader. He's got a long way to go to finish his lap. Actually, no, he's coming to the final corner now. So
Mitch Hathaway and Billy Douglas will come through 14th, 15th together on track at the end, as they were after Hathaway helped Billy Douglas longer get into the pits there after he ran out of fuel in 5th place as well. So there's probably not the position he was after, but he finished the race, which is the important thing.
He certainly did. Termo got home for 11th after getting caught up in a couple of little things, as Mike Coulston alluded to. He's being used as a crash bag again. What on earth has this guy got to do, gents, to stop getting ran into?
He's just going to take the target off his back. Maybe unbreak a few mirrors, walk over some ladders, save some black cats or something. I don't know. It's just every single time we seem to see him on stream, he's getting crashed into.
Yep. Burko was 12th, and he said Cracker 13th. Mitch Hathaway 14th. Paul Morris looks like, I'm not sure if he's out of fuel again, but he's 15th. And then the last guys that got home was Ozrob and John McDonald. Actually Ozrob was the last man a lap down, and John McDonald was 3 laps down at the flag. Wow, what a finish yet again. These guys are really turning on the head of the field. The top 2, or actually what is now the top 2 in the championship, as they come up to the line for a final photo. I think I have to leave a bit of room for Pete Savage here. I think, what on earth has Xeris done there? He's just had some sort of a bit of an issue.
On the pit wall.
There's your top 3. The man in the middle, the race winner. The man on the right, your second place. And Pete Savage, third place on the left.
GT3 racing just turns it on every single time, doesn't it?
Well, it's been turning it on in a number. There's been a handful of different races over the last, 2.5 years, and Bagsy can attest to this. We've had some ripper finishes. We've had the Spa round between Lewis Wedding and Brenton Foley last year was an absolute slog for that final lap. We almost got another one then. What other ones have we seen, Bagsy? We've seen that one-lap sprint finish at Monza, which Greg Tara held off Brenton Foley for as well. They're probably some of the more memorable ones that spring to mind, but it's not exactly, it's not both a common occurrence and it's not a rare occurrence either. It just seems to pop up at random, at least once or twice in a season we get a finish like that.
Yeah, and it's one of the good things about GT3 racing, even though they're such long races, they can really turn it up at the end when strategy plays out the way it does. And we saw that absolutely, just the lurking and the inevitable force that was Will Devenish coming up at the end there towards Bolger and just not quite being able to get there at the end. One more lap and that would have been Devenish's win, I think.
Quite possibly. But remember, at the very beginning of the race, we were saying how difficult it was looking for Bolger, how he plummeted through that first section of the race. So an amazing comeback, almost you'd say, for him to be in such a strong position at the end. And let's not forget as well, Devenish had his own troubles in the middle stint, so a comeback for him as well.
Yeah, it was all round. There were lots of drivers who did quite a good job to pick their way back through the field. And, they weren't helped along the way. We did see the likes of Liam Mitch and Aaron Thomas putting up very good fights along the way. So it was hard won for lots of drivers today.
Yeah, definitely some hard work for plenty of guys in the GT3 field tonight. Those opening laps as well, especially the laps after the safety car, they were absolutely mega as well. Everybody did a really good job of, when they were passing each other or leaving each other room. Only a handful of penalties that had to be handed out tonight, which were, relatively minor. But no, good to see that everybody did the right thing for most of it. And then the real big one, I guess, was Xeris having that drive-through penalty. That really cruelled his attempts at a win tonight, I think. But look, to be fair, it definitely was warranted.
Yeah, you'd absolutely say so. On to a bit of a lighter note, we have the top three in the booth with us this evening. We'll start off with our race winner, Steve Bolger. Congratulations, a three-time winner in AMS Oz GT3 for this season. That must feel pretty damn good after a late battle like that.
At the moment, I'm just exhausted. That was a tiring race. The last stint, as soon as Will got in clear, I was just pushing pretty hard, but to maintain the gap. But I thought it was under control, and then the three boys come up in front at the end to lap, and I was just like, "Oh, this isn't good."
Yeah, well, he was really stalking you at the end there. You controlled the middle stint pretty nicely, but were you aware of Devenish plugging away in the background as you got into that last stanza of the race? Were you aware of that lap time really going the other way?
Yeah, it was, the gap once he got past Foley, the gap, it was like a tenth each lap for the first 10 minutes, and then it started coming down in like half-second chunks, and I was getting a bit more worried. At the last pit, I was just worried about Foley. I was like, well, what strategy ploy has he pulled off here? And it looked like it didn't work out for him in the end, but no, that last lap was pretty tense.
Okay, describe your feeling going into the last corner there, where you had Devenish on your outside for the win of the race.
I don't want to repeat that on broadcast. It was,
Brilliant.
yeah, I thought it was going to be tight. I didn't expect. I thought I left him room, and I thought he'd hold it around the outside, and I'd been struggling around that corner all night. And I knew I was losing time out of there, so I thought I was in trouble, but didn't quite hold it together. I think in the end, lost a bit of grip. So happy days in the end.
Yeah, happy days. Speaking of happy days, first three-time winner for the series. You're leading the championship now by a long way. Giving that win gives you another 7 points ahead of Will Devenish, taking your advantage now, I think, to 20 points. Do you start dreaming of the championship now, or are you just looking at it race by race?
I'll avoid the cliches. I'm going for the championship big time.
Beautiful. Love to hear that.
Tonight was a real surprise. So during the week, I thought the guys had half a second on me, looking at the times that Pete and Will were doing. I thought, I'll just come third or fourth. I'll be happy. Pole was a surprise, and then the first few laps when I was dropping back, I thought, oh, this is more like it. But then the setup sort of come good after a few laps, so it was good.
Fantastic. Congratulations on your win tonight, and best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thanks, mate.
Second place this evening was Will Devenish. Will, you had an eventful race from start to finish. Just tell us a bit about your race from your perspective there.
My dream of a nice cruisy race was obliterated within the first few laps. Yeah, it was a pretty hard fought to get back to second place there. And that middle stint was, I was pulling my hair out that middle stint trying to sift back through everyone after that incident with Xeris and Hathaway.
Mm.
But yeah, that last stint, the the car was just it did everything I wanted it to do, and I thought 5 seconds with 10 minutes to go is a bit steep to catch back up, but the car did it, and last turn I thought go for broke, I guess. We're both so far ahead of everyone else. If by chance something like terrible happened, we'd still be keeping our spots. So I thought go for broke, and didn't pay off, but glad with the result.
Yeah, definitely. Do you feel coming second tonight? It's a big win for your direct championship rival in Foley, but do you feel the pressure of having Bolger keeping racking? The fact that Bolger's still racking up those wins, do you feel that championship pressure start to come down now?
Well, I still want the championship, obviously, but I'm also keen on this triple crown that we've got and the 3 different series. So if I can even out all my points for that, I think that's something to aim for. But definitely, I'm not writing myself off just yet for this season. I know I've got the pace to catch Bolger. He just he knows how to position that car throughout the race.
And maybe one day you'll have a clean race from start to finish, and we won't be talking about yet another recovery drive from you. Maybe one day.
That's the dream.
Congratulations on your second place tonight, Will Devonish.
Thank you.
Third place tonight, Peter Savage. Peter, fastest lap in practice for most of the session. You had a very good opening stint, and then a bit of a drama in the pit lane. Can you tell us what happened?
Yeah, so I just had the same issue that I've had for the majority of the season, the V8s, of just forgetting to change my tyres. So went into the first stint, came out in the same tyres. By the end of the second stint, I think I was down to about 18%, so kind of just ruined it.
Oh yeah, it was a real shame because you're looking very strong at the beginning of that first stint, but you managed to run through the field at the end, making some very, very good passes, especially on the likes of Foley and Lime Mitch. Is third place a bit of a surprise after the early start of the race?
Yeah, it's a surprise for me. I think it's by far the best performance that I've done so far, even with my issue that I had. Did honestly feel like I could have been in the battle with Bolger and Devonish, but things happened and just had to move on.
Either way, third is still a great result, so congratulations on that. You're looking forward to more battles with those guys towards the latter half of the season?
Yeah, I honestly don't see myself up here too much, but definitely will be putting in the hours to try and get back up here again, because I am really loving the Mercedes GT3 car.
Fantastic, yeah. And if you drive anywhere near as close to how you did tonight, I'm sure we'll see you up at the pointy end a few more times. Congratulations on third tonight.
Thank you.
And now they're back to you.
Thanks, Michael. I'll give this one to Bagsy, I guess. Bagsy, sum up tonight. It's been a bit of a different and unique type of track that we've witnessed tonight, and the racing, I think, was probably top draw for most of it.
Yeah, the track definitely, we were wondering at the start if it would lend itself to good racing, and we definitely saw that with lots of side-by-side action through multiple corners and some standouts like Lime Mitch's defense. You know, he gave people the inside of turn 2 and 1 every single time, and 9 times out of 10 was able to come out ahead. So it was that was my highlight for the night as well, was Lime Mitch's ability to defend. So many different people and so many very good drivers were frustrated behind him for a very long time. It was, I mean, overall, it was just a brilliant race. Yeah, any time it comes down to the last corner, the last lap, you really can't complain at all. And the yo-yoing fortunes as well. I think I might go have a look at the file after the race and see the track of people going up and down through the field throughout the race. You know, our top 3, I think it's one point were all outside, apart from Bolger, were all outside the top 6 at one point. So yeah, a very interesting race for sure. It's going to be hard to top next round.
Yeah, certainly will be very hard to top next round. 60-minute blast around Shanghai, which is 30 minutes shorter than the last time we were there. Last time we were there, I think, was toward the end of, or either end of 2018 or early 2019. I have to go back and check it. but we had a 90-minute round there, and we actually, I think, only had about 9 cars turn up to that round. So definitely going to be hard to top. And Shanghai's probably one of the biggest circuits on the calendar that we visit too, outside of Mount Panorama. So that will definitely be hard to top next round in approximately 2 weeks on June 2nd. Quick look at the point standings as well, provisionally after tonight. Of course, there'll be a little bit of a revisit just to make sure there's nothing untoward going on. Steve Bolger, as you said, does extend his advantage out to 23 points now over Will Devenish, so almost a full race win for Steve Bolger's advantage at the moment. Brenton Foley's 9th place finish has been awfully costly. He came into the night literally level pegging with Will Devenish. They were not that far apart. It was a 73 for Brenton Foley and 72 for Devenish, and now it goes up to the difference being 112 points to Will Devenish to Brenton Foley's 80. So a huge swing in terms of that battle for third place, and it puts Xeris within touching distance as well, only 14 points behind on 66. So starting to slip away the championship defence for Brenton Foley in the GT3 World Challenge, or the World Series as we call it. And the one thing we haven't alluded to, and it was Will that made mention of it during his interview just there is a triple crown this year. We do have the World Series, which is the longer format, or the intermediary format racing, the 60, the 90 and the 100 and the 2-hour format races. Coming up after the last race of the GT3 World Series, we have the Sprint Series, which is a pair of 30-minute sprint races a night, so a little bit of a different dynamic. Drivers are actually able to change cars if they want to change cars, and I did see, I think, Greg Tara is potentially looking at changing into the GTR for the Sprint Series and joining his son Noah. And then the big one at the end of the year, which is spread across 3 months because of the nature of it, is actually the Endurance Series, which are a trio of 3-hour races. And if you like, you can actually team up, and it's probably recommended that you do, team up with another driver to run in that series. So that's the Triple Crown that Will is alluding to. Seeing a couple of late-minute comments coming through on the live stream as well. Luke Joyner with the Hear No Evil, See No Evil and Speak No Evil monkey signs. So I think that probably sums up his night there, gentlemen. And a couple of guys just saying, how do we get involved in the Supercars League? That's to Luke Rosella. Luke, pretty simple. Go and look us up on the Facebook page. So on Facebook, look for Automobilista Australia. And inside there, you'll see a link to the Discord channel, which is where everybody chats and that. And have a chat to some of the guys around. Come and see us on Thursday night. Come and see us on Friday night if you're looking for a bit more casual with the Supercars or the Super 2 series. They're the 2 nights this week that it's running. And we're more than happy to have plenty of people come along and fill up some of those spots that are still going on. So Automobilista Australia on Facebook is what you want to look for. And as we alluded to, there is the next 4 events coming up. So Supercars and Super 2, the next 2 events this week, Thursday and Friday. Broadcast here on Thursday night, broadcast on the Loose Sim Sport channel or Loose 89 on YouTube on Friday night. Track Day Challenge, TCR Roz next Monday and Tuesday. And while it's not on the page there, as Michael alluded to, TCAC on Wednesday night. Well, gentlemen, thank you. Oops, sorry, Michael, cut you off there.
I was expecting you to say something. Yes, just as quickly on TCAC, we'll have a broadcast tomorrow, which is going to be coverage of last week's race at Londrina. And then we'll also have a broadcast next week on Wednesday, which will be the next round of the series live. And that will be, I think, at... Oh, I actually have no idea where we're at. I should probably know better. Let me just quickly find that.
Yeah, I'm having a quick look as well just to see what's happening with the race there. So Londrina was the last one you're about to do. Ribeiro Preto. Yes.
Yeah, so I think that's another native track to the game. So should be very interesting. That series has been a lot of fun. Some really great racing, some really awful racing, but in the best way as well. So it's a great, fun, chilled, relaxed atmosphere. So if you want to have a laugh while watching some racing, that's certainly one of the ones that we get to do, which brings a smile to my face, definitely.
Yeah, a bit of a fun series. I think Brock's done a fantastic job putting that mod together, and some other stuff that he's working on as well for later this year, which is the ATCC Championship. So keep an eye out for that. I think the sign up is actually already full, so that's going to become a very popular series in a very short space of time. We'll leave it there to tonight. Thank you very much for everybody for tuning in for the broadcast. This is 90 minutes of Valencia. 3 more rounds to go in the GT3 Championship. Catch us on Thursday night for Supercars. As always, please drive safely. See you next time. Bye for now.